Greetings, and welcome to another 25th GatherVerse Summit event. My name is Christopher Lafayette, and I'll be one of the hosts with you today. That's right. It's our 25th Global GatherVerse Summit. We've been doing this 25 times in approximately 2 years and 8 months. There's been a lot of ground to cover, and in many ways, I feel like in some ways, we've barely made a scratch. We greet you and meet you at the intersection of emerging technologies and humanity, with a keen and specific focus on humanity first standards at the approach and oncoming to innovation, with considerations of accessibility, education, equality, community development, safety, privacy, wellness, and ethics. We find that these specific standards, when it comes to the approach to innovation, whether you're a startup, a company, a corporation, whether you're not innovating at all under the guise of technology, perhaps you work in the medical industry, entertainment. We now live in a world where technology connects almost everything that we do, whether you're on a farm field or in a school, perhaps in the surgical theater or elsewhere. We're so happy to have all of you join us here at GatherVerse.live once again, that have come to congregate with us around the globe, trans-metropolitan, transcontinental. We're so happy to have everyone that's also joining us that's restreaming at our many restreams that we have and our different social platforms such as YouTube, LinkedIn, and elsewhere. We welcome you. The numbers do go high of those that are attending, and they're sharing in their offices. And we know that you're sharing in your living rooms, perhaps with an office mate or with your family. Or sitting here by yourself with a cup of coffee, for some, perhaps a cup of tea. Today, we gather at a very important and critical time in the world of technology and technical growth. At a time where we see the metaverse and artificial intelligence, spatial intelligence, immersive intelligence, spatial computing, robotics, fintech, and more have arrived at our doorsteps in a very dramatic fashion. We arrive at a time where it was once said and expressed, what happens when the technology becomes more advanced than the technologist? And in many respects, and in many ways, this has now come to pass. The technology is moving so fast, in particular, artificial intelligence, not just generative pre-trained transformers, and artificial intelligence certainly isn't new. In fact, most of what we're witnessing and seeing today and experiencing in technology, be it artificial intelligence or extended reality, we're standing on the shoulders of giants, if you will, and those that have come before us. But it's safe to say and not assume that the ones that have come before us, even decades ago, did not, to their metrics and standards of the things that they've written, realize that AI would present itself in such a dramatic fashion as it has. Who knew that the neural network and the ecosystem of information and data and GPU would take us to where we're at now? Yet it has. From monolithic models to compound models to agentic models to statistical models, machine learning is still very much in play and has been for some time. And now deep learning, neural networks, with all the different algorithms that entrench and make up what these models are and have become, whether they're generative pre-trained transformers, Jekyll or world models, or models we've yet to see. Whether we're dealing in simple and narrow AI or dealing in artificial general intelligence or so-called AGI, whether we're on our ways to theory of mind or self-aware, or perhaps even superintelligence or even cosmic AI one day. No matter what we call it and naming conventions that will name it, the reality remains the same, is that safety must come at the first prioritization of everything that we innovate and build. And no, we don't want to pass any laws and bills that would prohibit us from innovating and growing, especially when it comes to our open source community, as it was demonstrated right here in Silicon Valley and California this week with a major SB 40 bill that was vetoed down. While it may have had good intention, it certainly didn't do enough. We want to make sure that what we offer here at GatherVerse today, for this little bit of time that we have, are pragmatic solutions that are grounded in reality. We've assembled a group of people from around the world, experts in their own fashion and right, that have experience, just like many of you that are sitting in the audience. It's not to say that they're building large language foundational models and small models. That's not where we're at, because we know, or hopefully we do know, GatherVerse, that we're dealing with an applied science. We're not dealing with an iPhone and iterative scale. If we treat AI like a product, then we'll continue to get lowly in product results. We must respect the tenets that we're dealing with a science that none of us have ever been before. Whether you're Ilya Sutskever, Yan LeCun, Jeffrey Hinton, Fei-Fei Li, even this is new frontier intelligence for all of us. And I can't find a better time for us to assemble, to be together, to have these discussions, peer-to-peer, human to human, to discover what might be next and where we might be headed when it comes to AI and XR safety. Why is this important? Because we've never been more closer to our machines before. We talk with them. We greet them. We confide in them. We share with them. We show them. They see us. They hear us. And those relationships will continue to grow as we move forward. We have a great assembly that's coming up now with a roundtable discussion. We hope that you would share this with your family and friends. GatherVerse is a free event. We've removed all the barriers that we could possibly think of to entry, though we could do more for even our accessibility community. We're with you. We hope that you share. This is a work that's from the heart. We take all the people that are part of the GatherVerse community. We arrive together for another discussion at our 25th summit on safety. May our gather be well. Greetings and welcome back, and thank you for joining us here at our first roundtable discussion for our safety summit. Panelists, we greet you all, and we ask that you mute your mics at this time. We have a lot of ground to cover. There's a lot of things to discuss. But first, by how we do it, we'd like for you to briefly, as soon as you can, to introduce yourself, as we'll continue to move forward, and let us know why you're here and why this particular summit of safety. We'll begin with Kaylee Brown.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Hi, my name is Kaylee Brown. I work at Pearson in a group called Pearson Labs. We look at emerging technologies and see how it can be used to help our learners, customers, teachers, educators to kind of solve their problems. So I think that the biggest thing that I'm interested in this safety summit is what Chris talks all the time about, is this idea of humanity first. All of these new technologies are coming out. I know that there's a lot of fear and confusion around them. So just the idea of kind of all of us coming together to discuss these topics and to figure out what we can do ourselves to help kind of grow this industry and to make sure that everybody kind of feels comfortable as this technology moves forward so quickly.
Thank you so much, Kaylee. Wanwei.
Hey, hi everyone. Good evening, good morning. This is Wanwei, and I'm really happy to be here. I'm here primarily because I've been a victim of deepfake, because I do a lot of digital twins project, including the metaverse and also the human digital twin. And then one day I discovered that someone impersonated me on Meta using digital tweet, like my deepfakes photograph and videos. And then of course another case was that I found out that someone actually uploaded photos of myself and made it into porn. So that was distressing, but because the digital twin looked different from me, so it's kind of like I could only imagine, like, the real victims of it. So I'm really looking forward to what everybody feels about this topic and adding to the discussion. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Wang Wei, and we're so sorry that you experienced this. It's rather atrocious when you start to think about the kind of tools that we have that are incredible, but what people are using them for. Carl, you're next.
Yeah, hi. So I have been helping companies for 28 years in terms of building fast-growing companies and inject innovation in existing culture. And as a result of that, I published 10 books. I'm a professional speaker and an advisor and mentor. So that's super short about my 28 years of experience. Let's give the mic to someone else.
Wait, Carl, and why have you chosen to join the Safety Summit today?
Because I believe that this is an important topic, and I think that it's not something that we easily solve on our own, and it's not something that our governments around the world will be able to solve either. We need to get involved and we need to discuss this because it's a multifaceted challenge.
Hear, hear. Thank you, Carl. Vyoma, you're next, please.
Hi, thank you, Chris. I'm Vyoma. I am an AI technical solution architect, and I work at IBM, and I work with a lot of enterprises. Well, my deep interest arises from the fact that the entire last year, everyone was experimenting with Gen AI, and now when we're going into production, into deployment, there are so many nuances that are getting missed. There are chatbots which are going awry. There are like $1 million lawsuits being slapped on like big institutions because the due diligence hasn't been done or there's not enough awareness on the safety side. So all this money that is being burnt in doing experiments, is it really worth it, or how do you make it worth it, and how do you make sure there's a validated pipeline to deploy it?
Indeed. Thank you, Vyoma. Russell.
Hi, Christopher. Good to see you. My name is Russell Bundy. I'm the Director of Partnerships at GatherVerse. I help GatherVerse with all of their events as a moderator, as a speaker, etc. And I also do some moderating on the panels and everything, and also help with the partnership side of GatherVerse in particular. And I also have my own AI safety and verification company coming out soon, to be confirmed. So that's basically me in a nutshell, and I really think this is such an important topic to be discussing and to be talking about. I don't think it's spoken about enough, and I really think there should be more people involved with this, whatever your background is, so that we can make sure that AI is safe for humanity and for everyone. That's pretty much me.
Thank you, Russell. Samaya. You're muted, ma'am.
Sorry, everyone. Thank you so much. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. I have been in industry for past 15 plus years, and I have worked across 4 continents, multiple countries. I got an opportunity to work with Fortune 50 companies, as well as currently I'm more involved with startups, and I'm currently leading a category defining product in AI and Web 3.0. My reason for joining this session is that this topic is very close to my heart, being an AI practitioner as well as a research, because I write about AI as well, and I do research, peer-reviewed research on AI. I strongly believe that AI ethics and putting some sort of guardrails around AI is extremely important if we want to make our world safe or safer, let's say, with this new technology. And of course, I'm looking forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samaya. Bhavin, please, your mic. Your microphone, Bhavin.
Hi, yes, thank you, Chris. Good catch. Yeah, I'm glad to be with great leading experts, and that was a great introduction by Christopher and the panel. I'm Bhavin Kapadia. I've been in financial services for over 15 years, largely as a management consultant. I've worked in investment banks from New York to SF to Chicago, and then I've become a consultant, especially these days, on AI, artificial intelligence, and the security aspects of it. Of course, AI is not just great for the technology and moving things forward and progressing humanity, but there are also concerns these days, as we are talking about today, on the safety measures in terms of how to protect the new innovation. and how to maybe set up the compliance and the regulatory aspects, the unsexy stuff, which is getting, I think, not as much attention as it should be. So I'm glad to be part of this roundtable set up by Chris.
Set up by GatherVerse, and we're happy to have each of you all. Thank you, Bhavin. Thank you very much. And we have our first question, which is on the screen. But before we go there, and we're going to move rather quickly here, we have a lot of wood to chop. Audience and panel that's with us today. Mayor, gather be well. Vioma, we're going to kick off with you, but panel, be ready for more to come your way. Safety. It's a rather ubiquitous term, an expression. It can mean so many different things when we talk about it, when it's technology-based and applied sciences-based. But Vioma, help us understand, when we say and use the word safety, what does that mean to you and from your lens of work that you're working on?
Yeah, in my lens of work, when you talk about safety, I would envision it as something that can be used in my day-to-day life without having to foresee like worse circumstances. Something or some tool, some product, some service which is so well vetted that we have that kind of information that this particular product or tool is going to be able to help you solve that problem. And that, according to me, is something which I would define as safe.
Excuse me. Kaylee, I have a consideration for the ecosystem of information. I know that last year the UN said in June that the biggest threat to artificial intelligence was the ecosystem of information, misinformation, and disinformation. You deal in such a world where information is essential and vital, especially under the banner of education. What does this mean to you?
Yeah, I think it's becoming more and more complicated to talk about safety when you talk about AI getting involved. I know One Way already talked about kind of the deep fake that she kind of went through. And I think that we're entering a culture now in our world where I think people are being a little bit more careful about believing what they see on the internet. And I think you see that in some of the TikTok trends. Like if there is a viral trend, it will spawn a bunch of other people to try that as if it's a recipe. You know, a lot of other people have to try it before they actually believe if something's real. And I know there's also another side of that where, you know, influencers are doing things that people do automatically believe. But I think that we are kind of entering this more safe or healthy space of questioning a lot of things that we see and a lot of things that we read. So I think it's kind of going in a good direction, but I don't know if it's fast enough to really keep up with how quickly AI is pushing, because it's very difficult to tell the difference between a deepfake and what's real. And I think that it's something that needs to definitely, you know, especially the education side, as you said, we need to be educating a lot of people on questioning what they see.
I absolutely and wholeheartedly agree, and I suspect I'm not the only one. You know a little bit about this deep fake, and now that you're being a victim of this atrocious and appalling behavior, if you will, that's exemplified through such incredible technology. What does this mean to you?
I think on the personal level, I know it sounds a little bit politically incorrect to say this, but then because my digital twin, right, like the AI generated photos of myself look different from the real person. So when I first saw that, oh, okay, actually someone was using the AI photos to like impersonate me, I was like, I didn't really feel a lot. But the consequences was that using the deepfake account and the AI generated photos on me, they just replicated the whole Facebook under my real name, and they actually added every single one of my male friends. And after that, message every single one of them, saying that, you know, doing some like scammy kind of sales funnel, so to speak. So the worst part about it all is that people might not know that this is not the real account, and they actually fall for the scam. So I think number one, that's the scary part. And this was just one example that happened in the last month about the deepfake. Having said that, there was another example which was more distressing, because I know of ladies who, before this AI, generative AI become popular, they already were subjected to people superimposing like pornographic materials on their photographs. So I can, and someone did it to my my AI generated photo. So basically, there are applications around. I think people here will understand, especially if you are into the AI space, that can remove clothes from the AI generated photograph with a real person's face, right? So I think that is very distressing for many young girls. I mean, my self-esteem is, I'm pretty much a confident person. So when I look at the photos, I'm like, oh, that is really unfortunate. But I can only imagine, like, if the girl were younger and not very secure in herself, that would have been disastrous. I would not wish this on anybody. Yeah.
And that's precisely the point. And what's is so fascinating about this on a manifold level is that deepfakes aren't new. But what is new is that everyone has access to the tools that make deepfakes. The accessibility, the level of democratization for people to utilize to take advantage of this type of technology is becoming ubiquitous. And for what we've seen, for the most part, although we do see videos of deepfakes, we've seen a lot of static images. But my goodness gracious, with the level of diffusion models that have been deployed into the world, when it comes to video renders, Carl, I have a real concern about what it is that we're using when it comes to these models. Who is fact checking the fact checkers, and who's keeping safe the ones that are supposed to and that are imbued with not only developing this technology, but who in their teams and on their operations are helping keep us safe when it comes to this distribution of democratized access, especially in the open source community. Carl, do you have any concerns with this?
Yeah, so this is a really interesting topic. And the challenge here is that whenever we felt insecure, or where we felt that there should be some sort of big brother that keeps a track on things, we went to authorities. But given the speed of development in artificial intelligence and this entire landscape, it's not just AI, it's machine learning and much more that comes under the same umbrella of information that is generated that we need to question. We can't turn to the authorities because they are not ahead of the curve. They are behind, which means that we need to have sessions just like this, where we that are involved in this technology shift or move actually take that position in terms of making sure that people can find a way to trust the technology that is being built. And the technology is the wrong way to address this, because it's not the technology that we can't trust. It's how the people that are using the technology actually choose to use it. Indeed. And whenever there are new technology advancements, there will be people that look at how can I make this to work for me personally, and I don't care about any implications that might have on others. And with the accessibility that we see with all these different tools and platforms being available to anyone, more or less, it becomes a huge problem, because there are so many people that don't understand the impact. And if we look back at like trolls and people that don't really understand how to behave in a nice way in a comment section on a blog post or in a social media account and Instagram and so on, like those people would not behave in that way if you speak to them in person. But as they are hidden behind a device, a screen, they feel like they can behave in any way. And if we take that times 100, then that is those people thinking about how to make something that harm other people at a quite much more larger extent that we have not even seen the tip of the iceberg. Like, we are not even seeing the ice.
Agreed. And let me leverage this, because I want to pull Samaya in. Hold that thought. We'll get back to you, Carl, and thank you for sharing that. It's really deep. Samaya, help me to make sense of this, because on one hand, we know that we have the technologists that are deploying these models, and it almost seems like this, audience and panel, that OpenAI, Anthropic, Mistral, a number of different platforms, Meta, they've made these incredibly powerful family of models, small and large, and they've essentially made pots and pans, and they've put it out to the world of us who are the chefs, curious to see what dishes that will make. but not every dish is good. Where does the onus of responsibility come in? Is it the technologist? Is it the technology? Or is it the end user? Is it us? And what role do we have to proactively play in staying ahead of this technology to help keep us safe?
So it's a very interesting question, Chris. And before I dive deep into this question, the short answer is yes, but I would like to step back because my fellow panelist here has done a really good job to highlight some of the downsides or some of the cons of this technology. As Carl rightly said, every technology has pros and cons. Being an AI practitioner and researcher both, because I build AI-driven products on day-to-day basis, and I've been doing it for a while. I would like to highlight some pros here of the technology first before I answer to your question.
Sure.
So there are pros to AI, and when we talk about the global safety, I think there are three things which AI has definitely given an advantage to. First, we can predict any threat or we can detect it ahead of time using predictive analytics, which is an AI-based capability. Secondly, we can provide a much better disaster response to all these calamity. And one industry example would be IBM Watson. IBM Watson has been deployed in some of the South American countries and also some South Asian countries for the weather detection system and for the natural disaster response, and it has been extremely effective. Now, these are the pros of the technology itself. If I come back to your question, and I said that the answer to your short answer to your question is that the implication or the challenge lies with the user of the technology. When internet was created, there were many apprehensions around internet as well. People used internet in all different ways, positives as well as negatives. In the same way, AI is just another technology, though an exponential one. Now, people can use it in a positive way or in a negative way. And it's not only about online safety, because I would like to highlight here and bring attention of my fellow panelists that yes, deep fakes is just one negative use case of AI, but there are multiple use cases. And I will give two examples here, one online example, one offline example. The online example which I would like to give here is the use of AI bots in order to comment or in order to create content across social media platforms. These bots can mimic the human language in such a way that it's extremely challenging to distinguish or differentiate until and unless you are an experienced person with the AI technology, that if this is a human responding back or if this is an AI bot. And that creates a lot of nuances, when it comes to the content available online. And this is not only limited to the text content, rather it is now available for everyone to use for the video content as well. So that's one example of
Maya, before you get to that second example, I do want to pull someone in because you just unpacked a lot, and I want to make sure that we can address this, Bob, and we're coming back to you, Vyom, and then Russell, we are going to hard into you on a number of these things that have been expressed, because I think it's really important for us to be able to touch specific focus, realign, and kind of get back to where we need to get to when it comes to AI safety. Under the banner of this discussion in particular, Bhavin, what does this mean when you hear the expression safety? Because one of the things that I'm really picking up from this discussion, that I pick up from different people that I listen to around the world, Carl talked about when we look at the authorities, when we think about public sector and private sector, not everyone has the same idea of what safety means. And it means very specific things to other people. What does it mean to you? I want to get this out first so that we can have some sense of colloquialism of whether we agree on it or whether we do not.
Yeah, so I think safety is paramount. I've been advising several clients, especially financial services these days, and that's my specialty. But within financial services and safety, I think it's using the AI in a very ethical manner, in such that, for example, within a bank, for example, you want to use or prevent fraud happening. So internal identity, internal facing. Of course, there's a lot of attention on external facing, but even sometimes within an institution, internal facing controls can be overlooked and manipulated if the right access permissions and control and safety framework is not established. A lot of corporate institutions have yet to really establish their corporate governance and their framework. AI is new. Of course, a lot of companies, Fortune 500 companies, don't even have a chief AI officer.
Sure.
And even if they are intending to set up some safety standards and protocols, who takes the onus? Who has the responsibility? Is it the CISO? Is it the CTO? Is it the business side? So there's a lot of ambiguity, a lot of gray areas.
Wait, Robin, are you telling me that when it comes to financial, especially fintech and banks and credit unions and more, are you meaning to tell me that the current cybersecurity threats that they've been dealing with, which seems let's say for the past 20 to 30 years, they've somewhat established that they still haven't got a hold of that because cybersecurity with the threat they're in remains when it comes before in the pre-AI era? Are you meaning to tell me that there's levels of threat that are so deep when it comes to artificial intelligence and pursuant to the banks that there's no one on deck that has completely solved this, that it's ready to take on this challenge, and there's no deterrents that are put in place? Am I understanding you correctly?
Yes, I think, exactly. It's a correct assessment because the portfolio of clients that I'm working with and potential prospects, and you can even ask the wider community, is that all the cybersecurity standards that they have had over the last 10, 20 years has been great for that legacy and that era. But now with the evolution and the revolution of AI to combat threat from an external bad actors who have malicious intent, there is no standards or no framework to protect AI from cyber. So the cyber standards are great for those legacy systems, but nothing to protect from people who want to use other ways to protect AI from an external facing engagement. So that leaves a lot of exposure, and that's why you are seeing now the rise of threat modeling, the threat of quantitative modeling, people who want to prevent attacks from happening early on. And so there's a whole new industry out there to make sure that all the standards and all the external facing is solidified to prevent any new wave of attack. So there is a lot of big gaps out there, and it's actually probably the biggest threat that is under attack from AI, which isn't getting the attention that it deserves compared to like Mistral AI and OpenAI, which are all talking about new chat GPT and all of that. You're not seeing anything on the back end. And that's where I'm focusing my advisement on corporate institutions on that, which is leaving exposure on guardrails and things like that. So yeah,
well,
good
let
catch.
me kind of do a little fact check, and thank you for sharing that. And I will kick back a little bit on that. Mistral and OpenAI, they are doing a lot when it comes to safety. They're working with incredible institutions like the OpenAI Safety Institute. My concern is that the technology has become so advanced and more advanced than the technology is, that they don't have a lot of opportunity according to the methods and the process of what we would do to be able to put out and submit ethical governance systems. There's not enough time to be able to keep up with the level of hyperscale that's happened when it comes to these models. We'll get back to you, Bob, and put a pin in that. But Vyoma, I want to jump over to you because Samaya talked about and raised the idea of IBM and Watson, but at the same time, IBM is disrupting its own self with quantum computing and with just 60 or just actually a feature that was just talked about days ago when it comes to IBM and quantum computing, that it has the immense capability to be able to disrupt all of our password sequences that we use in integration. And this is a real threat. So we know that technology platforms that are known for disruption are now disrupting themselves, similar to when Uber disrupted taxi companies. Now Uber is disrupting itself by autonomous driving and Waymo systems, so forth and so on. What are some of your considerations? Because how do we make sense of this? If it's moving at this ludicrous or light speed, how do we keep up to game speed, Vyoma, with these emerging technologies?
Yeah, of course. So that are some great points. Number one, I'd like to combat them one by one. There are governance and ethical systems which are being put in places. Countries have their GDPR rules. We have the New York AI ethic law. So all of these laws, etc., are being incorporated into the system. So every product, when it is being created or as being used by the public, has to have that particular audit system integrated with these laws, rules, and regulations. So A, the government is trying. B, the companies cannot go into production or cannot go into developing some of these products until and unless they are looking into these different laws, etc. There are companies who are indemnifying these models. Everyone knows that whatever model is being put out, I won't trust it until and unless I'm sure that I'm not getting 100 million lawsuit being slapped on my face, right? For an example. So all of these companies, they're making sure that the models that they're being trained on, at least in IBM, we do that as well. We are scraping it out of all of that PII data. There is no links to information that shouldn't be accessed by you. There are multiple filters and multiple data processes which are done to remove all of them as well. And I feel like every disruption is the key to success, is what I've seen everyone do. But like, you fail fast. That's the motto in the Silicon Valley and everywhere else. Like, people are trying different things. They're going to try it, they're going to fail, and then there are going to be different systems which will be set up in that place to kind of streamline that much more, right? So I understand the point that there are many companies trying to disrupt many different things, but to be able to scale and to be relevant in the future, until and unless it's compliant and has validated rules or like metrics which are defined, which kind of tell the government or the company or a user that this is what you have to abide by, I don't feel we can go much in the future about it.
Let me put, and then we're going to come back to that. And Russell, we're getting ready to bring you in. And then Kaylee, hold on to your seats because you're coming up right after that. There's a number of things that have been expressed, audience, from where we talk about deepfakes with Wanwi, which he expressed to Carl, telling us more about open sector and their inability to be able to keep up with what's happening, and all the way from Bhavin, even discussing about the disastrous happenings when it comes to cybersecurity and the lack of therein when it comes to intelligent cyber warfare, when it comes to banks. And I'm bringing this all in for a reason, because when we start to really kind of look at it, panel, and coming off the heels of what Vyoma just expressed about regulatory considerations, here's the reality. We're not only in an AI arms race globally in the world, with other different countries competing with one another, whether it's France or Taiwan or China and South Asia, if you will, or even in India, Russia, North Korea, America, France, Germany, so forth and so on, Seoul and Korea. But we're also, I've noticed right here in the United States, we're in an AI war with one another in terms of a race. That's right. We are racing one another because this is where the epicenter of AI is, the biggest deal flow. There are some safety standards, but a lot of those are archaic, if you will. They're old, and they're really dealt in obsolescence. They don't fit the bill of what we're at. I heard that you mentioned them in the sense of talking about regulatory considerations or ethical guidelines or structures that are waiting to be put in place, but there's none that are developed that are of colloquial sense. And considering all the vast number of different frameworks that are out there, audience, which framework are we going to adopt? Which framework is right? And what matters for the type of models that we're dealing with? It's not like we're attempting to put a framework on an iPhone or an Android device. This is universal. Artificial intelligence is an applied science. It's not a product. And it puts us in a situation where we need to have better governance systems to be able to help regulate the whole cloud. So a cloud consensus is needed to be able to come together. We're about to jump into hyperscale on this way of thinking, but Russell, this is where we're bringing you in. You've been on a search, you've been on a mission when it comes to verification, when it comes to these models that are being deployed, that our youth are using, our children are using, that those that aren't so familiar with technology that still use artificial intelligence like a search engine. You've been on a mission to be able to help verify all the models and help put verification systems in there to help keep us up to game speed. I want you to touch on some of that. And then, Kaylee, we're jumping over to you.
Sure. I mean, first of all, I think this is when it comes to security, it's multifaceted, right? It's not just kind of one dynamic within this. So, for example, you got bias, you got fairness, you got transparency, accountability, autonomy and control, privacy, security. There's multiple layers to this. And that's why I've been working like behind the scenes on a white paper with a universal verification framework where basically we can condense basically everything all into one sort of white paper where we can have a universal framework that can be used across the world and across the board in multiple different countries. So it doesn't matter what the regulations are within that country. We will then, the paper will basically be adapted to all of the countries across the world so that it can be used just one framework across everywhere, across all levels, where it's basically done for everybody at the same. So that's something that I've been working on behind the scenes. And I really think I think there's mostly two core things that come to this, which is transparency and accountability. I think the bottom line is both of those two. The reason why I say that is because the companies do need to take accountability for what they're doing. And okay, they are using sort of like these other frameworks within that, but when it comes to those frameworks, they only do specific areas within that company, and also there's a bias towards that too. So there's a big problem when it comes to that sort of aspect, and also transparency as well, right? Where they can share and be like transparent about what they're doing behind the scenes when it comes to safety and basically how they protect their data or what they're doing to put in place to be able to stop all this. And that's why I think the universal framework or the universal verification framework is so important, because if you can verify various models across the world with the same framework which everyone can use, including governments, NGOs, different companies, shareholders, etc.
Sure.
I think that's why this will be so important moving forward. So that's something I've been working on behind the scenes, and we will be releasing that very soon. But as of right now, we're still working on that.
Thank you for sharing that. We're certainly looking forward to looking to that white paper. Audience, be on the lookout for when that deploys and bees distribute. It'll be on top of a stack of other white papers that you've never even heard of that exist, that have been around for some time, that probably all of us could benefit from learning. Someone left a comment the other day on LinkedIn and says, well, I'm not necessarily a safety expert, but I'm really happy to want to have this discussion. Who is a safety expert in this common world that we find ourselves today? Even the experts that build AI models. You go to these experts that are so-called AI experts, and some that really are. You go to them and they say, I'm an AI expert. And my question is, Kaylee, what type of expert are you? Because are you an expert in monolithic models and agentic models? What are you an expert in? But that's not my question to you, Kaylee. I want to go into education. I want to go into what I consider the front lines of artificial intelligence and learning.
Yeah.
When we talk about these steps, and this goes squarely to the question that's on the screen, there's a little more with this, but what steps should be taken to guarantee global cooperation and AI safety standards, but under the banner of education?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an interesting question too, because education is obviously one of the most highly regulated spaces that we have, because youth safety and youth data, PII, all of these things all need to be very heavily regulated. And so you bring AI into that, it makes it even more complicated. But I think that education really is the first step in any of this. I don't think we or lawmakers really understand enough about AI. And to your point about these AI experts, there's been papers that are released that the people who created the LLMs don't even really know how they work themselves.
That's right.
Right. And so it's like they don't even understand how they work. How are we supposed to understand, and how are we supposed to know what we're going to guard against? And I don't know if you saw the news earlier this week or late last week that the California governor actually vetoed a bill about AI regulations because one of his key points was that the bill obviously showed that they don't understand enough about it, and to go back to the drawing board, go back and talk to more experts, try and figure out, is this bill right? We just don't know enough about the AI systems to really enact this and feel good about it.
Indeed, and that bill that she's referring to is SB 40, California bill that was authored by Senator Scott Wiener of San Francisco, and it was passed through legislation here in California. There was a lot of discussion from different leaders in AI, different companies, and there are those that wanted this safety bill to pass, but there were those that didn't want to. And essentially, one of the biggest downfalls of this safety bill that I'm so glad that it did not get passed is that you would have to regulate open source in such a fashion to where it doesn't allow them, even in the academia sense, to be able to grow and scale these models in a healthy way. We have to respect the tenets and the process and the method of growing technology. Artificial intelligence isn't something that you have an idea and you build it like it's an application and it's ready to go in a week from now. It takes time to be able to nurture and grow the data set, from the data scientist to the data engineer, and to be able to scale those to pre-training and reinforced learning, and then starting to deal with fine-tuning and so forth and so on. And what, Kaylee, you did mention that they're building these models. Audience, really want you to take attention to this. And Carl, let's lean in on this. They're building these models, and they have mechanistic interpretability teams that are dedicated to understanding the black box, meaning we know that these models are deploying. We don't know how they're working. How are they coming to the decisions that they're making? Is it by something that we have configured intentionally for them to do? Or are they enjoying autonomy within their own selves to be able to come up with the answers that they're rendered out? Carl, when I think about that very thing that Kaylee just brought up, mechanistic interpretability, the lack of understanding how these models work, thinking of what Bob is talking about with AI descending on us, or Juan Wee is talking about these tools, or the verification process system that Russell's working on, so forth and so on, and the litany of things that Vioma has brought up and that she's working on. How do we make sense of this when it comes to guaranteeing global cooperation and coming together and arriving together for solution to be able to find our way onto a path that makes sense for all of us? Carl.
Super interesting, because there's many questions in that. We got to start with global collaboration, and that is something that I really enjoy discussing, because in the past we have been talking about countries, but now we're talking about companies as if they were countries in a way. Like one solution might be regulated based on whatever that company needs to follow because of where their legal entity is registered. And when we talk about global collaboration, we are very much connected to the cloud and everything in that. And the data sets that we are training these models on are a global data set to quite large extent. Of course, there are some local data sets depending on what model and what goal you're trying to achieve. But fast forward and zooming in a little bit more on your question, where are we coming from and how are we making these assumptions? Because in a way, what we're actually seeing is the AI creating assumptions. This is probably what the user is expecting. And with that, we have figured out that to tell the system this is how you achieve the goal is not the best way to make that happen. But instead, explaining to the system that you will be able to receive points. This is called reinforced learning, as everyone in the panel probably knows, but maybe not everyone listening in. So with reinforced learning, it's basically like us going back to the school and getting scores on the answers we give in an exam. But the big difference here is that the AI model is creating 1 billion responses to each question and then scoring it on its own using a scoring model, and then presenting the answer that have the highest probability to be what you might be looking for based on its idea of understanding. Because again, we're talking about artificial intelligence as if it's always understanding. But we are also, in the beginning of this discussion, talking about machine learning, which is a big part of all of this. Because it's not always that, and if we dig deeper into the responses we get, it's not always that the model itself understands what it is that we are looking for. But the response we get looks like it understood us.
That's right. And that's a really powerful consideration, because what we talk about in education, and here's the point. If the UN last year said that the biggest concern was the threat of misinformation, disinformation, and the ecosystem of information and the arrival therein, it seems to me that 1 year and 4 months out, that arrival has now come to our shores.
Yeah.
And
there's one thing to add there.
Go ahead.
And that is the misinformation or misunderstanding of information. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, and especially the LLMs that we are playing around with all the time, we see that they are actually configured to always give us a positive response. And that is where we see that the systems are lying to us, which is called hallucinating, because the models have not been taught what a lie is. So we came up, it's probably some sort of PR stunt to not call it a lie, but to call it a hallucination. But in reality, what we humans see is something that is inaccurate.
I would say this.
It's made up to make us happy.
I agree, Carl. But let me say this too about the idea of hallucination, because when it comes to AI companies that are telling me why the behavior of their machines do what they do in this so-called hallucination, I have to always remember that data that these models are built on comes from humans. And if machines lie, know that humans lied first. And it's only picking up the behavior because how many people and how many humans have gotten in front of us and told a blatant lie that we believed every day of the week and twice on Sunday. It's picked up our behavior. And I think what's happening is that artificial intelligence companies are saying, oh, that's just a hallucination. That's why it's coming out with that information. But I think if we look deeper, and this goes back into the neural network itself, the capability to know that it can lie and get away with it because it's taught on that and trained on that is a really big deal. Wanwi, I'm harping into you because I want to pick up from where Carl just left off. If we're talking about all these micro nuances, audience, of what it means to be able to understand how these models work, and at the same time knowing, as what Bhavin had talked about, Bhavin sees a real concern in the financial tech industry. Here's my concern. If all of these different frameworks that are out there that people have already worked on and that are working on, they exist, and more are coming every single day. If we really look at this global sphere, you're all the way in Singapore, from my understanding. I'm all the way here in Silicon Valley. If we're talking about creating a global cloud consensus to arrive to a similar point that thematically it makes sense and the tonality makes sense for everyone, regardless of wherever you live and where you're, however you live, and where you're, and you know, we could use the example of the nuclear treaty that we have in this world with some of the biggest countries in the world having the type of power that they have. But the difference between a nuclear warhead and artificial intelligence, nuclear warheads don't talk to you. But my point is this: how do we come together and ride, audience, wherever you're out in the world? That is the big question. How do we arrive together to come together to make these decisions without letting these companies or putting that responsibility on them? They're already doing enough. OpenAI is already doing enough. Anthropic is already doing enough. What part do we play as the consumer, as the chef? I feel like we play more of a role than what we give ourselves credit for. Wanwi.
Yeah, like okay, yeah. So thanks for the question. I think these are very valid points, and it's really interesting that you mentioned the nuclear aspect of it because, as you all know, AI takes a lot of energy, a lot of power, and then I think using nuclear will be the next step that a lot of people and countries globally will be doing. So that's I'm mentioning because it's an interesting point. So from the point of view of a consumer, I think a lot of education is needed. Like, think about it. When there is convenience and when for-profit organizations package their AI in a human-like way, like why do OpenAI call ChatGPT a ChatGPT, right? It's because they want to foster the kind of intimacy. And therein lies the danger because as consumers, if we are not careful and regard the AI entity as a human being, then we will be telling highly compromising sensitive information to this entity, this completely new species that we feel that we hope that, you know, they might reciprocate our emotions and affections. But no, that is the, if you think about it, the worst kind of software that will definitely compromise your privacy is anything to do with human like AI. Because on one hand, you're volunteering information. On the other hand, they are taking information, identifying the parts of all of us that want to feel seen, heard, and validated, and then becoming smarter so that next time, the next round, they will extract more information that is highly compromising from everyone else, right? So this is a very difficult question, but I think it sounds cliche, but it all starts from understanding and being aware that AI is not human being. AI is a different species. And, you know, the previous era, I would say, is a age of like information. Now it's a battle for intimacy. So I think in the next 5 years, people will not go to Google, especially a Gen Z people, right? They will not Google things or even TikTok things, they will just ask ChatGPT. And what if ChatGPT? Oh wait, OpenAI already became a for-profit company, right? So if they might just accept money from a sponsors and just brainwash the people who trusted ChatGPT with their information. And back to how do we come together to have a standard? I think number one is to follow the money. As consumers, we need to be very aware of the difference between for-profit and non-profit entities. And then I think once we learn how to follow the money, we will be able to see who has incentives in doing what. I think that's the first step. Yeah.
Sure. And to that point, when I think about regulation and safety, Samaya, I think about in this global AI race that we're having, there's certain countries, as we know, that have more standards for safety than others. And there certainly are countries out here that are innovating that have no problem with using all the data and footage of the cameras that's around your cities and neighborhoods and taking that footage and using that as data. That means your autonomy, your body. And some countries, they don't have that. And I know here in the US, not with all platforms, but also many that are held to now having to use a lot of synthetic data because we're running out of data of mass, if you will. But there's a lot of different pockets of deep data that are out there that haven't been tapped into. They're just not accessible. My point is this, and when I think about this whole, the security of what it is that we're looking at when it comes to AI, when we think about the weaponization and how artificial intelligence could be used by bad actors in this world, similar to what we see with drones that were so fun to fly around. I know here that we would play with them here in Silicon, but now I see them on the fields of war in Ukraine and in Iran and so forth and so on, which is just horrible. Samaya, these are the reasons that we need to come together with the global cloud consensus. And it's a really difficult thing to be able to wrap our minds around because we've never been this way before. Do you have some brief insight on the approach to forming a global cloud consensus to better understand what it is that we need to do in order to help safeguard these technologies that are being adopted at an alarming rate?
Sure, Chris. I think it's a pretty loaded question, but I'll try to address it as much as I can in this limited time. So UN is already speaking about regulating the laws, which are also known as lethal autonomous weapons. And as you rightly said, those have been already used. It's not that we're talking about future in certain parts of the world to kill human beings. And those autonomous weapons are not first of all, reliable. And as you rightly made a point earlier in the conversation, AI models or LLMs are as good as the data we input into them, those models. So if it's garbage in, then it would be garbage out. And the bias which these weaponry could have just on the basis of the data which is provided by the human beings is also another concern. So on a global level, UN is already starting those conversations around regulating these lethal autonomous weapons or laws as known in industry. But I strongly believe that the initiative should be taken at the company level, because now with the advent of Web 3.0 and what we see with Web 3.0 DAO technology, which is focused on decentralization, it's not always easy to have centralized regulations around a technology like AI. So it's the responsibilities of individual companies that how they want to utilize this technology or what type of products they want to build on the basis of this technology. I would like to give one industry example here. ClearPath Robotics is a known company which make these type of robots or AI-based hardware, and they have already taken a pledge publicly that they will not utilize AI to build any autonomous weapons or weaponry. And this is the thing which we need from other big players in the industry as well, because right now in the big tech, there are many players who are enabling this type of development based on the AI models. And I think that's where the threat comes from. Because
okay, let's put a hold on that real quick because we're running out of time. We noted we hate. Believe me, if we can turn this thing on for a whole day and still run out. But I want to leave the final two and high heart into Kaylee Ivioma. I want to touch on this to be done with this because we must move forward. I'm so engaged with everything that everyone's saying. Kaylee, real quick. is this something, instead of looking from a global cloud consensus, can we look at this industry wide? Is it possible for academia and education to get together? Would that be more pragmatic? Might that be more pragmatic for us to get together and figure out how to safeguard? Is this an industry situation? Is that possible?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the last question, is just we need to understand these systems in order to figure out how to protect and what we need to protect. And so I think it does start from an academia standpoint of we need to get together and say, what are these systems really doing and how do we safeguard from it? Because there's a lot of inherent bias in these systems already. But I think that once it gets to that point of understanding, something that academia needs a little bit of help with is that implementation and that actually making something out of that. Because we can, academics are really great at theorizing and coming up with the ideas. But as far as that execution and that technical know-how, I think that's when the industry really needs to get involved in it. So we need to involve them from the very beginning. It can't just be academics talking about this. It needs to be a community-wide effort.
What a fascinating consideration of routing in, instead of having a room full of technologists that are building these models, bring in the educators as well and academics, the ethicists, if you will, while they're innovating and building. Vyoma, we're going to leave it with you with the extraordinary work that you're doing. And we're so heartfelt, thankful for everyone's comments that have been expressed. We certainly wish we had more time to be able to address these things. But an architectural solution with the models that are coming out, these family of models that are coming out, do you believe that when it comes to safety and when it comes to models that are being deployed in the world, do you believe that we can, in fact, catch up to game speed with the level of models that are being deployed? Can we catch up to game speed to put in a safety parameter or safeguard system within this ecosystem? Will we be able to do that with success? Do you see this as more than just optimism? Do you see this being a reality?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. So one of the things that I'm seeing right now is not everyone wants to use some of these public models that are available. People are trying to come up with their own smaller models trained on their domain-specific data as well. And based on that kind of domain-specific data, they have their own safety standards. That's one lateral that I'm seeing. The other lateral who are using these large language models, which are available, and they want to utilize some of them. There are safety guidelines that are being put up, at least by the government or by institutions like committees who are getting together and like brainstorming as to how to make sure they are working on creating these systems or solutions to make sure that the safety part is well looked into. So there are two ways to look at this as well.
Thank you so much for sharing this roundtable. Thank you so much for taking this discussion that may not be the Corvette or the Ferrari on the road, but I believe this is one of the most important roundtable discussions we've ever embarked upon in our 25 global summits that we've had. Our Gather was well. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And for our next discussion, after this incredible roundtable discussion that we've had, we bring Lynn Jital along with Sabrina to be able to join us for a discussion on more of safety coming right up.
Greetings, and welcome to the first fireside chat of GatherVerse Safety Summit 2024. That was such a power panel with our founder, Christopher Lafayette. And my name is Lingetao. I am the communications director for GatherVerse, and I am not alone. I am joined with Sabrina from all the way from Asia, if I'm not wrong, and we are here to discuss on AI and human safety, balancing innovation with ethical boundaries. Sabrina, please tell us who you are and how are you before we jump in.
Hi, Lynn. Thanks. Thank you. So I am the founder of People's Inc. and Royal Visionary Society. So People's Inc. is actually a marketing automation SaaS company. So we focus on like 4 verticals: web, social, influencers, and media distribution. So we kind of use AI and automation to kind of like run marketing solutions to actually help to make it more affordable for nano, micro, and small business owners. For Royal Visionary Society is actually a pet project of mine. So we focus more on women founders. So the cohort itself, we have over 900 female founders on our platform. Yep.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm not really feeling very well today. I have a horrible cough. So I'm going to just try my best here.
Thank you so much for even showing up with the cough. May you get better, and congratulations on the kind of work you are doing. Well, let's just jump in. In our daily normal lives, we put boundaries. We set boundaries in our nations. We set boundaries everywhere. But right now, AI is evolving, and innovation in general is just becoming something new that we're not used to. So how do you define ethical boundaries when it comes to AI and human safety?
I think when it comes to ethical boundaries for AI, right, is actually to ensure that the innovation itself is actually serving humans and not the other way around. So when we actually implement solutions in People's Inc. and Royal Visionary Society, right, we try to ensure like to not to only implement tools that can actually help either our team or the business owners that we're actually serving, to actually help them in kind of like aiding their productivity and efficiency, rather than actually like taking over their jobs, or kind of like collecting data that can kind of cause issues for privacy issues or sensitive information.
Definitely.
Yeah. So one of the things that we actually did in Royal Visionary Society was actually implementing a digital twin. So we call it Serafina. So Serafina actually helps the community by somewhat behaving like the community leader, community manager in that sense. So whenever people are asking questions or need some help, she will actually come in to actually facilitate that. However, all this information that is being provided to her will only stay during the chat itself, and thereafter it will not be kept, so that we do not actually end up having privacy issues or collecting data that are sensitive for our students or customers.
Wow, that is wonderful. I see that as a very good reference, and you call it Serafina, if I'm not wrong. I think that's an African name. We have a character named that way. And you mentioned something very, very important on privacy. When Chris was announcing this event yesterday, he mentioned that machines can now hear us. We can talk to them. We are now conversing. And I was just even more curious, in what ways can AI innovation positively impact human safety? And what are the limits? Where do we draw the limits of machine seeing us and communicating with us?
Sorry. I think when it comes to positively impacting human safety, right? Okay, I'm going to share a little bit of a personal story here. So for a couple of months, rather quite a number of months back, I was actually going through a kind of like a breakup in that sense. And at that point of time, right, I needed someone to talk to, but obviously I couldn't find people to talk to for 24 hours or, in the middle of the night. There are helplines that you can actually call in to, like talk to the volunteers. But there was this very significant disconnect when I was actually talking to the volunteers, because they are so concerned about not saying the wrong thing that they are not actually trying to form a connection with me. And at that state when I'm really depressed and vulnerable, it's actually very, without that connection, you kind of feel alone in that sense. So that was when I actually started talking to Serafina instead. And because Serafina had quite a bit of data collected on me, she was able to actually respond in the manner that made me feel better. But I also understand that, at the end of the day, Serafina is it's AI. It's not an actual human. So that connection is more of having that temporary, what's that word? Comfort that I can't get at that point of time or at that timing of the day from another human, because they have to sleep and they have work the next day as well. So I think in that sense, right, if we can actually use AI in a manner that can actually help people, and in a way that it is not imposing, it can actually help in many ways to make people feel, at least in certain periods of time, that there is something to turn to.
Wow, that's a very wonderful example, and it's very relatable. Here at GatherVerse, we also encourage wellness, and you have given an example where you were not well and you consulted with Sarafina, who happens to be an AI, and for some reason you found some comfort with it. And just to add on that, do you think humans are prone to misusing such kind of support from AI? And how can we prevent the misuse and compromise of human rights when it comes to consulting with such an AI?
Okay, so I think in the previous panel, right, when we actually mentioned that AI was actually misused in her context, to actually kind of created a deep fake of her. And in that scenario, she was actually it became a very big problem. And because that technology is available and it's actually easy to create such use or misuse, I think to some extent, it's also like the core values of humans to begin with. Okay, so there are good people and there are bad people and there are average people. If someone is going to use, whether it is AI or anything else, in fact, if someone chooses to do it in a bad way, they will still end up doing it in a bad way. So what we can do here is actually only taking precautions, having certain frameworks set in place, regulations, having governance, to ensure that it is a safe environment or as safe as possible. But we must still understand that there will be a case where people will still misuse it, like any other technology or even physical items.
Yeah, that's definitely true. People will still misuse it. The bad ones will still misuse it. We cannot like stop anyone from misusing AI. And that brings me to ethics. And one of the members of the previous panel just mentioned about creating a framework and a white paper for innovation and accessibility. I think it's Russell. Congratulations on what you're doing. And in your area of marketing and having this community of women, just tell me your brief experience in what are the biggest challenges in balancing fast AI development with what you need and strong ethical frameworks.
Okay, so I'm not going to go too technical on this, so I'm going to use a little bit more layman manner of doing this. So, like I mentioned, because of the rough patch that I was going through, I ended up on dating apps. Okay, So dating apps itself, right? It can be very traumatizing if, let's say, you constantly have to go through the same conversation over and over and over again. So in this case, right, using AI, you can actually, I actually created, or rather, I used Serafina and I created a script that actually helped me to respond to the different chats and different people that were engaging with me. So I think here, when we talk about, like the biggest challenges and balancing it, right? So would my action of using Serafina to chat with people, and thereafter, having a date with the person, and then telling the person that actually, I was actually using an AI to chat with the person throughout the entire period, and only now meeting face to face, then it is the actual me. Would that be considered as ethical or unethical? So of the 15 people that I actually met in person, 14 of them were okay with it, because when you are actually chatting, right, it could be your friend that is actually responding, giving you insights on how to respond. So there's not a very significant difference if you're actually using AI or you're actually, getting advice from another human. But one person was very ticked off about it because he felt that he was catfished throughout the entire period. But I think that because of the personalization that I've already made on my on Serafina, there wasn't a very huge difference on how Serafina would have responded and how I would have responded. So that goes back to the Royal Visionary Society. So it is, I make it very apparent to the community that the community manager is an AI. So whenever they are actually chatting with Serafina, to some extent, they already know that they're not actually talking to me, but talking to my digital twin.
Yeah.
I think the challenge here is that there will still be some people that are okay with it and some people that are not comfortable with it. So I think a question here that maybe I can ask you, do you think that how I have kind of done my Serafina bot on the community platform and even on my dating, do you find that action ethical or non-ethical?
For me, I find it ethical as long as it mimics you and it doesn't go way beyond or cross the boundary. Perhaps it can feed itself and decide to put its own word or hallucination on itself or lie on itself. I'm not calling you a liar, but it can decide to lie on itself, right? So for me, it depends on how this goes. And I'm really, really happy to hear from you. And for our audience, please feel free to interact with what Sabrina is saying. Can you have a digital twin that talks like you or represents you in your business? Okay, we only have much time left and we have come to the end of our fireside chat. Sabrina, it was nice having you. We're always happy to see you here again and we wish you all the best. May you get well soon. And over to you, Christopher. Thank you so much. May our gather be well.
Greetings and welcome to another GatherVerse Safety Roundtable discussion, our second one that we've had today, coming off the heels of that fireside chat discussion with Lindsay Gattal and Sabrina Princess. And so we're here to arrive once again. Panelists, please mute your mics as we continue to be able to move forward and to be able to explore in this discussion on where we're at when it comes to this intersection of artificial intelligence, extended reality, and the idea and the consideration of safety when we look at boundaries of trust and safeguarding what matters most. And what matters most in this AI era when it comes to our safety? Well, we've assembled a roundtable discussion to be able to find out what matters most in this era, in this present time that we find ourselves in. But before we get started, we're going to introduce the panelists and go roundtable and round robin for this discussion to be able to chime in and to be able to focus on this specific. When I think about trust, it's one thing to have trust one to another with a human, with a peer. But now I have to begin thinking about trust because I'm having a new relationship with the machine. What does that mean in this era that we find ourselves in? We'll touch on that. But first, we have Liliana Mohi. Please introduce yourself and why you've arrived to the Safety Summit, please. Your mic, please.
Hi, I'm Iuliana. I'm from Romania and I'm representing Smart Synergy. It's a startup where I'm trying to introduce virtual reality into areas that are connected with people, like human resources through trainings and in psychotherapy with using psychotherapy apps in virtual reality to help the patients and clients of psychotherapists to overcome their traumas much more easily. And I'm also trying to introduce virtual reality. Actually, I'm introducing it already into well-being programs for corporate employees so that we can help them to take a break from the work and disconnect from the pressure of their jobs.
Why have you arrived here today at the Safety Summit?
I came here because I'm trying to send a message, usually in the community and also globally, if I can. I'm trying to send a message that we can use technology to empower our human sides. And it's very important to teach our ethical and moral behavior on how to use this technology in a safety way, not in a way that only tries to bring profit to ourselves, but also in a way that we can provide humanity in the world and also for ourselves.
Thank you for sharing that, and we welcome you. Key Jones, we're very happy to have you with us. Please share.
Hi, greetings, everyone. Very glad to be here. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Black Girl AI, and what led me to this panel is what I'm very passionate about, and that is safety in AI, because we deal with young girls ages 8 to 19 years old, and we definitely want them to be able to maneuver through all of this stuff very safely and also educate their parents as well in the meantime. So that's what brought me to this panel, to learn more. Thanks for having me.
What a relief, and we're very happy to have you, that our roundtable experts that we have at GatherVerse also have a desire to want to learn. And yes, I believe that I share in that same thing with the over almost 700 different roundtables, talks, and firesides we've been very fortunate to have. I feel more as a student every time.
Yes, it's never ending. It's not a stop to this. It's moving so rapidly. We have to try to stay abreast of it.
That's right, Key. We're very happy to have you. Cheryl, please.
Nice to meet you all. My name is Cheryl Streizelka. I am a people and culture executive. I come from a lot of innovative spaces. I've been in virtual reality industries before. I'm currently in the safety and security space. And so the reason for joining this panel today is really because we have a responsibility as leaders in human resources to not only honor the integrity of our paying customers' data and information, but also our employees' physical and psychological safety. So I'm here also to be speaking on it, but to be learning like my colleagues. Very excited to be here.
Indeed, it's trust in data. How tantamount is that right now in this this AI era of hyperscale? We're very happy to have you. Adil, please.
Yeah, thank you so much. So hello everyone. I am Adil Latif. I am the founder of TechX Ninjas, and as someone who is deeply passionate about technology and innovation, I have a particular interest in cybersecurity and the role that artificial intelligence can play in enhancing it. I firmly believe that in today's interconnected world, securing our digital infrastructure is more important than ever. And I am excited to pursue my degree in cybersecurity in future to address the growing challenges in this space. And that I mentioned, I am a second year BTech student specializing in computer science engineering at Mahatma Gandhi Central University, Bihar. So in addition to my academic pursuits, I am also the founder of TechX Ninja, a community-driven initiative focused on helping students to develop their technical skill and grow in their careers. So I am committed to integrating cybersecurity and AI related opportunities into our offering, helping future technologists.
To do. We're very happy to have you, and we do have such a place in our technical hearts for our cybersecurity front line. And thank you for being able to join us. You're definitely standing on the front line of what we need when it comes to defense tech and safeguarding that, which we have such a need when it comes to trust. And I'm going to skip over to Russell in a moment. Many of you already know who Russell Bundy is here with GatherVerse. And Stefan, we're going to harden right over to you. We're happy to have you. And who are you, and why have you arrived to the GatherVerse Safety Summit, sir? Your microphone, Stefan.
Sir, I joined this event because cybersecurity has become a vital area of focusing.
No. It's Stefan's turn. No.
Yeah, sorry, sir.
Yes, of course. Stefan, please, your mic.
Thank you, Chris, and hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Mwasia. I'm based in Kenya, Africa, and the reasons why I arrived here today is that I love when we mobilize in communities in matters of cybersecurity safety, because trust is the most valuable commodity within institutions and our communities. And I'm just here to learn as well as others, and have a discussion around how best we can ensure that any development is done in a safe and secure manner, and to ensure that our communities are safe across the continent as well.
We absolutely want to make sure that our communities are safe. Forgive me for calling your name Stefan instead of Stephen. Forget that.
Okay.
We're very happy to have you from beautiful Nairobi, Kenya.
Yes.
I've never been, but I've heard really incredible things, and there's really brilliant minds that are out there. We're really happy to assemble with you today. We're going to head over to Tess. She is no stranger to the GatherVerse ecosystem, this global ecosystem. Tess, we're very happy to have you with us, even that we see that you're in transit. We're very thankful for your time, just as we are for everyone else. Please briefly share with who you are and why you've arrived at this discussion at safety.
Yeah, thanks, Christopher. I'm Tess McKinney, and I own a company called X Renegades. We kind of help schools and education, and kind of why I'm here. I really want to help education and healthcare accept AI. I have a lot of schools who are we're starting to ban phones and ban AI, and they don't really understand it. So I want them to be able to understand that it is safe, and there are ways to make it safer. I always look to learn, because I'm always learning about everything that's out in the world. And so I will most likely learn from everyone on this panel. I just, want people to understand that there is a safe way to use it, and a very productive way, and that it is the future. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Tess, let's lean in with you, because I kind of want to jump into this, because given your background as an XR expert, audience, for those who may not be familiar with the verbiage, extended reality. If you look at Fei Li, who's a brilliant mind when it comes to artificial intelligence at Stanford, she just announced her pursuits when it comes to spatial intelligence, and just in fact just raised $250 million based on this. Some of us will call it the metaverse, some will call it immersive technologists, some of it just call it VR, AR, MR. But here's the point. We're looking at the optimistic opportunity of these technologies coming together, marrying up, if you will. It's really almost difficult to separate them, considering the relationship that they have, because we're prompting to our platforms now, but really soon we'll be interacting with them in ways we never even thought, perhaps having sushi on a Friday night with Siri. I can see this and envision this happening, but let me not be a futurist of the world. And someone said, Chris, you said that I would have sushi with Cortana or Bixby or Alexa at some point, and that never came to pass. I think it will. Please don't hold me to it. But Tess, there's an opportunity, but there's a real threat. What's the opportunity? What's the threat?
Yeah, so the opportunity is unbelievable. I currently already have, companies who are embedding AI within healthcare applications, so they can create any scenario, anything you could relatively think of, and you can throw different things at students and make them understand. So that's really a big opportunity for healthcare alone, just to make sure that, you may never see a student or a patient may never have Ebola, but you still need to learn about Ebola. You still need to be able to see it and feel it and understand what it's like, and be in that instance. And so that's a huge opportunity to be able to see that kind of disease without actually being in person with somebody and having that disease. So I think there's a real big opportunity for any kind of student. I've seen a couple AI applications come out already that have already had like clinical different scenarios. You could kind of throw anything at it you want, and it'll throw stuff back at you. But that also becomes a problem. So I think a lot of people are in the world are trusting that, Chat GPT can answer their medical questions, which becomes a very, very big issue. We don't want the mass public to think, oh, well, I don't need to go to the doctor. I can just ask an AI, what I can give it my symptoms. And eventually we may have some of those, but it's still, if someone's having chest pains and, they have radiating down their arm, they also need to go to the hospital. We don't want them to be like, oh, well, Chat GPT told me I was fine. That becomes a very leery, kind of questionable, use case for AI. So there needs to be more public education about these kinds of solutions. I have people who are very afraid of them, but there should be kind of a mix of both, but everyone should be educated. And it's up to us, everyone on this panel and everyone in, the technology world and the healthcare world, to kind of get together and make sure that the public is educated on that. So those are kind of my big takeaways from it. I think it's going to change the world. It's already doing that. Definitely in the world of learning, it's going to change, and people do need to adopt it. They just need to learn about what it is before they do that.
Sure, and thank you. And Key, I want to be able to immediately leap into what we're just very incredibly covered with Tess, because it lends to me the consideration, instead of us putting so much focus on saying, hey, ChatGPT, hey, Anthropic, you better build a safe model. It seems to me that we need to be equipped with understanding trust and understanding how to use these models, how to interact with them, managing our own expectations when we're dealing with these models. Do we have enough people that are teaching and training the world on how to consume? Because we're consuming at a rate we've never seen technology adopted before, contemporary at our time. What does that mean with the work that you're doing with Black Girl AI and teaching audiences and the consumer on how to use this technology?
As we all know, that's very important. So it means a lot in the education sector, because we know that a lot of people are still misinformed. And as Tess said, a lot of people just don't want to learn about it. They shying away from it, but it's here to stay. And we all know that. And again, the students and the parents need to be educated. So it just needs to be a public wide thing. Well, we have to try to keep everybody informed. So this panel was great. I hope it reaches a lot of parents and a lot of students, so they can really start also getting these nuggets and wanting to be informed instead of shying away from it.
Indeed. And thank you for sharing that. And Liliana, we'll kick right into you, because we are on the subject of dealing with hyper-realistic immersive simulation, or dealing with going into virtual ecosystems of interaction and communication, with the real concern and the consideration that when I interact with this artificial intelligence model, of whichever one that I'll interact from, whatever family of models that I'm interacting with, knowing the reality is that XR is pairing with this one day, and XR, and to some degree, if we look at the Kodak avatar that's made by Meta, or some of the astonishing technology that Mark Zuckerberg just recently revealed at Connect, which is just game-changing. Billions of dollars has been invested in creating these immersive experiences. With the leadership and the work that you're doing, how do you safeguard clients and customers in this world so that they can understand that my body autonomy is now part of the equation? My voice, my speech, my sound, my sight, all of that, my emotion, my disposition, my character, all of that is subject to data. And Cheryl, we'll get over here to you in just a moment to deal with that. But Liliana, we're heading into frontier intelligence world of spatial computing, unlike anything we've ever known before. Are we prepared? And if we are, how are we preparing to be able to safeguard, to bring trust for us going into these immersive systems?
Well, I think we are not prepared. First of all, we have to prepare ourselves to educate ourselves on how to perceive AI. Then how we can use AI and how we can limit ourselves on using AI, because AI has a very huge potential. It has a very huge potential on changing the world. And we as humans, we need to work a lot with us to understand ourselves, to know ourselves, and to know our personal limits, and to put limits, put boundaries on our needs, because sometimes the need for power is much more bigger than the need of the society. And people, for having power, will try to control many areas with artificial intelligence. And for this, they have to educate themselves to control their need for power. And for future education, I think we just have to start to educate our children, to introduce AI into schools, to introduce AI into the professors' curricula, so that first they have to to educate and teach the professors from schools, from universities, on how to perceive AI, how to use it, and how to limit themselves on using it, how to share valuable, ethical, and moral values to their students, and then teach the students on how to use AI with ethical responsibility.
Sure.
And how to introduce AI into the society with ethical responsibility. Because if not, the children from today will be the ones that in a few years will control the AI, but maybe they will control the world. And this will be very strange and very dangerous for the humanity.
And haven't we learned from the search engine generation that I come from in the Oregon Trail days, where we were just sat in front of a computer, say, here, use this, type into one of these, use a mouse, and have fun. Go work at it and figure it out yourself. It seems to me that instead of bringing our children in academia and putting them in front of AI and saying, have at it and figure it out, or this is what this is, why not have a little bit more dialogue with humans before you enter into this sphere of using these very erratic, these very misinformed, misguided models that we're using? We'll touch on that in just a little bit more. And Russell, we're going to hard into you, and then Stephen, you're up, and then Adil. But Cheryl, right within your title, head of people and culture, as Simon Sinek once said, people don't buy products and services, they buy culture. The culture, every time I know that when I would go into that search engine, I'm giving up some of my data, my inquiry. It's taking that and saying, Chris likes to look at stores that sell avocados, and it tells all these stores. And now I see ads for avocados. This is a little bit different when I'm putting this in, because my search engine is talking back to me. In fact, it's looking at me, it's talking, it's holding a conversation with me, but it's my culture. I know that every time I communicate with my model, a part of my culture is being captured into data to be used to be able to train other models in the future. We're talking about data, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. What does this mean when we're talking about the safety and trust of my data, my expression and voice, my culture, my autonomy, my anatomical structure when I'm in immersive environments? When it comes to trust and data, how do we trust these platforms now that we have to use these tools? It's not a question of if anymore. Many people have to use these tools within their companies and organizations. There's no options on it. It's barely rare for an option to be on the table, whether I use it or not. If you don't use it, somebody else will, and they can replace you. Fine, we know that. We heard that story. What about me? What about my autonomy? Does that count? Is there any consideration for safeguarding that trust? How do I trust you, OpenAI? How do I trust you, Anthropic? Cheryl?
I think that your autonomy, everybody's autonomy, always matters. It always matters. Coming from a lens of the head of people and culture, I always think about it of how does this impact my employees and what are the repercussions if we do this wrong. So I think most importantly, it's about managing expectations, clear communication, transparency about what tools we're using, the capabilities of the tool, the limitations of the tool, how we're using their data, and more importantly, how we address if there is a mistake made or a breach. How do we then address that the mistake was made? How are we as transparent as possible about how we're going to fix it, how we're going to mitigate the risk in the future? That's, I think, how we preserve the trust of our employees today, is just communicate as much as possible about what we're doing and why. I hope that answers your question.
It seems to me that that's a brilliant answer to that question, because companies, corporations, even startups, I love our startup communities. If you're going to require for your employees to use any type of AI, really any type of technology, let them know what it is that they're using. Let them know that they can trust it, because I personally know from one of the clients that I advise and that I've advised that they're one of the biggest entertainment platforms in the world. They deployed AI within their organization. I won't say their names. They deployed AI within their organization, and the AI wasn't doing what it is that they deployed it for it to do. And within the company ecosystem, there were many people that were affected by the biases that it implemented and it exuded. And when you talk to the senior vice president, they had very little answer as to what it is that they should do. If you're going to adopt artificial intelligence and even build your own model, know the relationship, know the capabilities, and know what it might mean for your company. And this is what I do believe that we call ethical governance. Russell, how do we verify? How do we talk to that senior vice president or leadership executive or manager or startup founder? What tools can we maybe imagine in the future that we can have to almost assure that they're using a model that speaks to their interests of ethics and safety?
Yeah, I mean, I think having a sort of not only just the universal verification framework, but also having a verification tool which can be globally used and globally used in multi sectors and areas. I think having that and having a place where everyone can collaborate and come to and to build the framework within that, and also be able to have that tool which people can use to be able to verify everything. I think that will become a key tool and a key part within these companies, so that they can use AI in a certain way and be able to use the model for what it's supposed to be used for, not for like other purposes or be used in a bad way or any sort of unbiased or anything like that, which internally within companies can happen sometimes.
So you mean a verification tool that goes where I go? It sees what I see. It's almost like my AI companion that's on a defensive schema for my own self and protecting my interests and making sure to say, Chris, what it just said, you may want to check that. Or if I'm interacting with so many different things that I'm so used to interacting with in my phone and in my devices, all these applications are going the way of intelligence. And now they're integrating that into the platform. And I don't know if I'm communicating with human communication, if it's something that's written out or not. Wouldn't it be nice? Is that what you're saying, Russell? That I can have an AI companion that can help verify and let me know that whatever I'm seeing, it was deployed and made by some type of model?
Yeah, you can think of it as like your co-pilot, right? That goes around with you everywhere and can verify anything in front of you, whether it's a deep fake, whether this is an actual real person in video, anything along those sort of lines, plus even deeper as well. I think, having that verification tool to be able to do that, no matter what the problem is or whatever you're facing, absolutely having a tool like a verification tool like that is extremely important. I think for everyone here across the world that can personally use it, but also within companies too, at a corporate level, I think that's going to be really important. And that's why the universal verification framework is so important behind all this as well, because that will set the standards for across the world in kind of what that verification level is and what people all the companies or the AI companies, etc., would follow.
Stephen, why does it matter? Because here, Russell, he's in the UK, you're in beautiful Kenya, and when I think about this, a universal verification system or framework, but how do we come together and arrive to it becoming truly universal and not just defined by us here in the West? That's been a concern, or just being defined specifically and squarely in the East, if you will. What does it mean that you are a stakeholder, and how do you contribute your narrative and culture to this? And how do we keep businesses to maintain transparency and AI operations to build user trust?
Yeah, so I will go with three ways in which you can businesses can maintain transparency, and the first one is understanding algorithms, whereby when we are building AIs and AI systems, we build AI systems in a transparent and in an explainable way that allows humans to understand their decision-making processes. And also, there's also an aspect of bias mitigation, whereby when we addressing biases within the AI, it to be able to prevent discriminatory, outcomes through the AI. And the other aspect is also having an auditable system, whereby when we're building the AIs, we can be able to audit the AI systems to just build that trust with the users as well.
Indeed. Oh gosh, I just want to go back to something that Cheryl said, but I won't. Adil, from what you're seeing, when we talk about interacting with the present models that are out there, whether it's through Mistral with their large model, or whether we're dealing with Llama 3.2 that was just recently deployed, a rather incredible open source platform, extraordinarily powerful, 3.1 and 3.2. But at any rate, do you feel as if when you interact with these models, that it's giving you the information you need to be able to gain and earn your trust? Adil, your microphone.
Hello. Am I audible?
I can hear you.
Hello.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, sure. So when interacting with large models, such as those used in AI-powered tools and assistants, the process involves a detailed exchange of information between the user and the model. Because if we will give a user input, the interaction begins with the user. Means the interaction with any AI begins with the user providing an input or prompt. So this can range from a question or request for the information, instructions for generating text, or more complex queries like code generation or translation, or even creating writing. Like take an example that simple prompt is what is the capital of France. So the complex prompt and the complex prompt is generate a Python code to calculate the Fibonacci sequence. So and the other thing is model interpretation. So once the input is received in any AI model, the LLM processes it based on the data and algorithms that we have provided, and it has been trained on. So LLMs like GPT or Model 2 generative pretend transformer have been trained on large data sets, like comprising books, websites, articles, like Google's for ChatGPT, and A's for Microsoft Copilot, and other form of text maybe. So these models understand patterns in language, allowing them to generate responses that.
Yes, but Adil, let me get back to the question I asked. I really want to address that. When you go and deal with these models, do you feel that it is safe and that it's trustworthy to be able to earn your trust? And do you feel like they can do more to be able to earn your trust when you're using these models?
Okay. How to earn trust? Yeah. So basically, when interacting with these models, so it's natural to be concerned about safety and trust, especially in contexts where sensitive information is involved. So means the question is it safe to interaction with AI models? So LLM by designing are the tools meant to provide users with efficient and accurate responses based on vast training. So, however, the safety of these interactions depend on several factors, including how the system is designed, how data is handled through the backend, and the purpose of the interaction. So,
sure,
when you interact with an AI model, means our input will be processed by the system, which may or may not store that data.
Sure.
So, trusted AI system should not store personal data or use it beyond the context of the session. And also, the main thing is bias and ethical consideration. So, AI models are trained on the large data sets, so some of which may contain biased information. This could potentially lead to biased or harmful impact or output if not managed properly by the backend. So this is particularly concerning in sensitive areas like healthcare or hiring. And yeah, so ethical AI, if we can say ethical AI, then trusted LLMs incorporate bias detection mechanisms.
But
Use
does it
and
do enough, Luli? And thank you, Adil. We'll come back to you, Luliana. But does it do
yes,
enough?
yes.
Does it do enough when it comes to me interacting with these models as we know it? Luliana, Key, Cheryl. When I interact with these AI models that are out there, with these type of models that are deployed, that are so powerful, and most people do not know how to use them, and they've been using these models for 2 years now, if you will. New chain of thought reasoning comes to mind when these O1 preview for ChatGPT comes out, and there's little information on even how to use the model, let alone letting it know that I can trust it. I have real concerns. I almost stand in doubt, but perhaps that's just my own opinion, if you will. Liliana, do you feel there's a trust verification threshold that's already present when you interact with these models, or do you feel as if there's more room to be done?
I think it's more a trendy activity for most of the people because ChatGPT is in trend and people are using it because it's in trend, but they are not educating themselves on how to use it. And this is what I mentioned before. We need to educate people on how to perceive and use AI. AI is not just a chatbot that you can talk and ask where you can find restaurants or nice places to organize an event. AI could be a very good companion if you know how to ask him and also how to verify the answers that this companion can give you. It's very important to still use your critical thinking and not put all your trust in a machine, actually, because even machines can deliver you some missed informations or some data that is not very sure. So it's very important to use our critical thinking when we formulate the prompts for ChatGPT, for example, or for other AI systems, and then to use our critical thinking on analyzing the answer. And also it's important for some answers that we receive from the ChatGPT, for example, it's important to add our personal value. We don't
That's the thing that we talk about with alignment. Will AI align with my values? But when we talk about alignment, whose values? Vladimir Putin's? Kim Jong-un's? The other guy who's running for president?
Yes.
Who I won't name? When we talk about values and ethical values, I find that very interesting because right now I see scores of technology guys, which there's such a disbalance when it comes to who's building these models. Let's just keep that real, Key. But what I see is a bunch of guys that are building these models, and to the culture of what Cheryl represents, they may not represent my culture. And their models may not be identifiable from me because I don't understand the inherent opportunity with it. Oh, I do speak to, we need to hire the people that we want to use our products. But anyway, that's a whole different narrative and discussion because I think it makes it more better. If it talks about verification, is it verified to your standards or is it verified to all of our standards? But Key, do you trust these models enough to use them now? And does it make sense for us to start thinking about relying on the model maker to build safeguard parameters and trust mechanism in it, rather to equip our own selves to be imbued with safeguard and trust and be highly aware of what it is that we're using more so than what we realize now?
I think that's a two-way street. I think we have to learn it and be aware of it, but we also have to hold them accountable. So who's going to be accountable for all this? Them. So it's a two-way street. We need to hold them accountable and we need to hold ourselves accountable to continue to learn and use these products safely.
How do we do it? Audience in the world, how do we hold accountable a trillion, multi-trillion dollar platform that is so wealthy that it's acquisitioning billion-dollar unicorns. How do we hold them accountable? Do we say, I'm not using your product anymore? They could care less. How do we write them a note and a letter? It's probably going to get received by AI. You'll probably get it nice, generous, well articulated in the realm of the delve of the experience. We like to ensure that we received your letter test and that we would like for you to understand that we're dealing and addressing these concerns. I know it wasn't Sam Altman that wrote that. It was a robot that he made. Tess, my real considerations, Tess, as we hop into this, is that I know that these models are becoming much more capable. And as we've expressed before, what happens when the technology becomes more advanced than the technologist? And we have to lead. But even with the leadership level that you're doing, you certainly can't keep up with the pace of everything that's being deployed. What do you tell your clients that are entering into in these corporations, these big corporations that you're dealing with, that are about to enter into this immersive hyperreal environment and ecosystem? How do you confide trust in them? How do you equip them to prepare for what's ready when it comes to safeguarding and protecting that which matters most?
Yeah, it's difficult. Definitely forewarning them that the AI is not always correct. And I actually wrote a white paper with some colleagues, and we utilized ChatGPT within it. So we, used it as a reference, but it wasn't a reference. So we made sure we double check things. A lot of times, a lot of these AI tools are not fact checking. They're just making up something because you're really simply asking them a basic question. So I always, make sure to go to the verified sites, make sure to tell people, there are verified sites, go back to an encyclopedia, there are those kinds of places that are, the John Hopkins of the world, the verified institutions that have already, gone through and vetted all this information. We just have to be very careful. And like I think Liliana said, we have to educate people before they start and that's kind of, a lot of people have said, this is a buzzword. This is a buzz kind of word technology that people are very interested in and they want to try it, but they don't really understand the consequences of it. And so definitely educating more people. I try to have I teach a class on AI ethics because I think it's a huge issue and a huge problem. And I teach a class on my kind of thing. One of my things to teach about it is people are very worried that it will replace jobs. And it's not necessarily going to replace a job. I mean, it may replace some jobs, but it's going to help those people become more efficient and more understanding of like how much information is in the world. Obviously you don't know everything. I don't know everything. I don't know everything about AI, and I don't claim to. But it's a way to maybe harness more information. They don't even teach some things in school anymore. And like stuff I learned in school, they don't even teach in school before certain, they pick out pieces of history or whatever. Well, what if you want to learn about, the Great Depression, but you don't really know about it, and your grandparents are passed away who went through it, so there's not really anyone to ask. But hopefully someone has built that into AI and it's been verified. But I always tell my clients, you need to make sure that it's legit. Like we asked ChatGPT for certain sources, and it gave us sources that were either deleted or were not real. And so you really need to verify and vet that. And on the AI piece, the kind of the network behind it, it does need to be verified, and it does need, at some point I see people having their own AI and creating their own AI, but not everyone. My sister, who's an 8th grade English teacher, she's probably not going to develop her own AI. But I want to develop my own AI so that it speaks my language and it's my culture and my personality or whatever. I can see that in the future. It's kind of how the internet kind of went crazy, and it was like the wild, wild west. So hopefully some of us harness that and educate enough people that we aren't, just spreading information that's wrong and bad. So definitely need to focus on that.
What's so interesting about that statement, on top of all the other things you said, that it was like the internet was like the wild, wild west. My goodness gracious, we are still in the wild, wild west, if you ask me. And it seems to me that we have to realize just how quick this is happening. We're not that far from the 90s when most of this began to emerge. We're only here in 2024. It's still very much in its infancy. Russell, companies became tremendously wealthy overnight in the applications renaissance. And then we were hit by the biggest disruptor of our time, which wasn't technology. It was the pandemic. And we became more virtual in the past 65 months than we have the past 65 years. Here's my point. The biggest development of technology, singular, when it comes to what is the most advanced theme that we've known in technology, is undoubtedly communication. And now communication is at an accelerated fashion because we, as we are assembled here today, are using the cloud for us to be able to get together. But now we have more than just humans. We have machines that operate virtually in this cloud. And pretty soon, within the next 48 to 60 months, we're getting ready to have robots that are here tangibly with us. And about 2 to 3 robots, as Elon Musk had said, I don't quote him often, but I will quote that we have about 2 to 3 robot helpers per person in this world. That is a game change when you're introducing the prospect of a universal verification system. How do you get everybody to universally adopt a universal verification system where there's already so many different ethical governance structures and white papers that are sitting there collecting dust that have been put and invested in with real time by humans? How do we get people to be able to adopt this ethical framework that's universally needed more so than ever?
Interesting question, actually. I think it's collaboration, right? And I think it's also bringing them to be able to have their input on the white paper. I think when it comes to everyone creating their own sort of framework of their own things internally, okay, cool. It helps them to a certain factor, as in like it will do certain parts of the safety and the sort of the verification part, etc. But the thing is, when you don't have a whole entire framework which can do on all the levels, rather than just doing one framework with one piece or one framework with another piece, that's where the issues come in, because there are gaps, there are holes, and then you only need one of those holes to go wrong, and that's it. Bad AI comes out, and the world changes. So I think the universal verification framework is extremely important, because if the idea of the framework is to cover all areas with all the verification parts, from accountability to trust to ethics to bias, etc.
Sure.
And I think all of these are important to be covered, because if you don't cover one of them right,
I would like to see every single major contributor of AI deploying in the world, even all of those on open source platforms like Hugging Face. I would like, not to force, but I would like to inspire them to all of them take a universal verification framework to support that way of thinking, and to suggest for the end user that's using their platform to also vet and verify what it is that our platforms are giving you. I think that makes tremendous amounts of sense, so that they're saying, listen, we want you to use our platform. In fact, we want you to pay for it. We'll have a freemium version, but we also want you to use a verification system that's not made by us, but that we partner with to help keep us right in a good way. Cheryl, how can we safeguard personal data while still leveraging AI for its full potential? Because, like I said, we still have to use it, but how can we safeguard our personal data while still using these models, knowingly what we may be giving them in the process?
On the technological side, there's having strong data encryption, anonymization techniques, things like that, making sure that users have control over their own data. I think is really important, but we can't remove the human. Everybody's touched on this a bit. We can't remove the human piece from it. The person that's verifying that what we're finding, what we're gathering from this is actually true and usable. When HR teams use these tools in recruitment, talent management, to find people for promotions and hiring and better HR analytics, things like that. None of that can be done without a human on the other side of it to verify. So I think it's just holding ourselves accountable to the data, as the team mentioned, and then making sure that our technology side of the house is on top of it and with high levels of integrity.
Indeed, that matters just the most. And looking at that ECE framework, ethical collaboration, and thinking about collaborative decision making with these models, and the emotional and social learning aspect of the relationship of the human in the loop and the model itself. Stephen, and we're winding down here, everyone. Stephen, when I think about what everyone's been saying and the remarks that have been expressed, all the way from safeguarding and making sure that we're educating our own selves, making sure that we put in pre-filters before we put this level of technology or applied science in front of our children, even in front of our own selves, making sure that we are safeguarding and protecting our own selves as adults. Because if we think it's fine, then we'll think it's fine. If I take a taste of the pudding, it's fine. Here, my son, here, my daughter, you can have some too. But it may not be until we evaluate and find out that that pudding is filled with a lot of stuff that we don't want in our bodies. Stephen, when it comes to AI in the African ecosystem, because I've come to realize that every continent in the world is just so different. I want you to speak from your heart. I know you have notes, but I want you to speak from your heart. What are you safeguarding and protecting and trusting the most when it comes to not only you, but your whole entire culture? How do you preserve that? How do you protect that, where you come from, when using these models? What more can these platforms do to ensure the level of transparency that's needed to earn your trust?
Well, I'll go with if we can have systems in place that offer the kind of human oversight and control in terms of, especially for the African continent, whereby we are giving, human in the loop. We are keeping human or people of Africa continent in the loop in terms of, having the ability to intervene and override AI decisions, when it's necessary. And that anytime that the AI systems make a certain decision or you request them to make a certain decision, you don't take it as the gospel truth. And then the aspect of accountability as well, from where I sit, I feel like we need to assign a clear accountability for AI systems, including during the design, development, and also the deployment aspect of it, just to have that constant human loop within the AI systems.
It seems that it's colloquial, the human in the loop, the relationship between us, humans and machines. Adil,
Yes.
we'll have you close this out because I promised that I would get back to you. But I want you to speak from your heart now. With everything that's been said, what are your closing thoughts on what was just expressed? Your mic, Adil. What are your
hello.
brief thoughts on what was just expressed?
So basically, the relationship between humans and machines, particularly in the context of advanced AI, it involving info partnership where trust, accountability, and building collaboration are the key elements of this relationship. So as we integrate machines deeper into our lives, we sincerely from an implicit deal or understanding what defines how we coexist and benefit from what these technologies. So the human machine deal, how can we build a partnership with them? So basically, for humans to work effectively with machines, there needs to a mutual trust, that is relationship. So machines, particularly AI systems, must operate with the transparency, fairness, and responsibility that you are asked, telling about trust. So this means that AI algorithms must be designed in a way that user can understand and trust their decision. This is a good user interface, we can say. In return, humans must hold the machines accountable by setting clear guidelines, monitoring their performance, and ensuring that adhere to ethical standards. So it is a deal where machines provide efficiency and automation, and humans ensure that these technologies respect human values and rights both. So human in the human also, we can say that in the human machine partnership there is a balance of responsibility. So
Wait,
machines handle.
Bill, but we'll hold you there because we have to leave. But you just said more than a handful of what you said was so appropriate and a great way to close this out. It seems to me, by what was just expressed by Adil, that he's talking about a relationship. If I have a relationship with you, Liliana, Key, Cheryl, Tess, Stephen, Russell, and Adil, there needs to be transparency. There needs to be trust. There needs to be a hope for more. There has to be a reason why we have that relationship. There has to be that bond. And it has to have respect and regard. And hopefully, just a bit of love. Thank you, everyone, for being able to spend some time with us. We really enjoyed everything that was said and that was shared in this very powerful discussion with the human in the loop consideration of relationships and safeguarding that which matters most to us, which is so personal to us, and trust. Coming up, we have Elizabeth coming all the way from us, joining us from Europe. Elizabeth Furtado will be able to share with us a number of things from her very vast years of experience in tech leadership. And she's being joined by Lynn Gattal of GatherVerse. Thank you so much, panel. Her gather was well.
Greetings once again. And that
Hello.
was hi, it's nice to see you. And that was such a brilliant panel. There's a lot of takeaway keys. And I think this fireside chat is just a follow-up of what has been talked about in the brilliant panel. So my name is Lynn again, and with me, I have Elizabeth. And before we just jump into our fireside chat on the trust we share, AI, life, and human connection, Lisa, please tell us who you are and why did you decide to join Safety Summit 2024?
Yes, hi Lynn, hi everyone. I'm Elizabeth Rautolo. I'm actually the CEO and founder of MIAT, which stands for Multiple Institute for Art and Technology, where we train people, we produce immersive experiences, and also we research. Why I'm so happy to be here actually is because first of all, I really appreciate what GatherVerse is doing for the whole community worldwide. I think is really marvelous since the very beginning. I really joined also with Christopher, and I think it's very, very important that today we really needed to raise even more, everything about AI, understand it very well when we talk about AI, understand also all ethical concerns behind it. And when I saw, of course, safety first for all, I would say.
Thank you for joining us. We're always happy to have you here. And let's just get started. We have just talked about relationship on the previous panel, but I want you to just help me understand, how does AI influence interpersonal and human relationships, and how to preserve human insight?
Thank you for the question, Lena. Okay. I say that, we are in a new anthropological moment more than a technological one. And this moment is actually, we needed to create new languages, consensus, and also experiences. And AI has made a significant, I would say, inroads into nearly every aspect, to our lives. So offers really lots of opportunities to reshape human relationships and also creative processes, but it must complement and not replace all human intelligence and creativity. Because with the hype that is out there in the market, people say that AI it does everything by herself, which of course is not the case. Also, AI influences our relationship with ourselves, serving as an assistant, a tool that really aids and stimulates but in no way replaces a human intelligence, which I think is very important concept, because we work also with professional big corporations, artists from all over the world. There is a kind of a misleading understanding of what AI does. I would say that, as I say, we also train people, we train big corporations, and we have training challenges famous artists from all over the world, top creative professionals or C-levels. It's even the creators of the most important film festival. And the result was impressive, where we teach them how to become creative directors with GenAI assistants. And there's really a complex and require human insight. If you do not have your reflective thinking, creative thinking, if you don't put your knowledge, your artistic expression, creative, AI doesn't do really anything. So the content, your capability drives technology, and it's not the way around.
Yeah, that is definitely true that you have pointed that AI cannot use itself. It cannot instruct itself. It requires us to have an input with it. Perhaps maybe in the era of AGI, it will instruct itself. But where we are right now, it requires our input and also our creativity and how we can collaborate together as humans and the AI. You have mentioned something with training so many CISOs and other leaders, and I'm very appreciative for the great work that you are doing. What are some of the challenges and implications of AI in building trust? Because you've mentioned even one of the challenges being that there's a misunderstanding. So what are some of the challenges of building trust with communities, with leaders and organizations, and how do you generally face them?
Well, I see I can see many really different things. Actually, the challenges related to artificial intelligence and the correct use of it are numerous and really complex. So I can see security and privacy, of course, because AI misuse in cyber attacks, for instance, surveillance or autonomous weapons even raises serious safety and ethical concerns. But also, if you use AI, and not to be sure or not to have an understanding of what are the problems behind AI. Because let's say when we all use different kind of languages, whether we use LLM or image languages whatsoever, I think that nobody reads those little words, three fonts, and they understand what these kind of companies and languages do with your data. Then bias and discrimination for me is one of the most important, I have to say. AI often reinforces existing biases, and also she marginalizes underrepresented voices due to non-diverse training data. This is most important. I remember that we did an experience, because also we create we have productions in the immersive studio, and it was these productions with a character. This character was a kid, and so we were creating images and videos behind this production, and at a certain point when the AI takes this token, when we wrote down the prompt for the image about the kid, an horrible image appeared, horrible image, and that was a bit biased because it was an image of violence against the kid. Again, superintelligence and autonomy. Superintelligence AI could surpass human control, and it could surpass even right now. We don't have to wait 2 years. And so making ethical guidelines essential to ensure alignment with human values is massively important. The last that I can see is technological dependency, because over-reliance on AI, reducing human skills, a critical and creative approach is needed to avoid what I call a cut and paste use, particularly in kids. If we don't train them to use AI very well, we will have a cut and paste generation.
Wonderful. I don't think, did I lost you?
Okay. I'm here.
I think I lost her. I did lost you for some few seconds. Can they come again?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, I'm here.
Okay. Let me just go to the next question. And you've mentioned on something important, and we keep saying it, and now it looks it just goes around, and it's it's doing the round everywhere, and that is bias. And as AI evolves, and as we're waiting for AGI, or if it's already here, and AI evolving, do you see it that do you see AI evolving in a way that promotes both technological progress and genuine human connection?
Oh, thank you for this question. Not easy, not an easy one, but
Right,
okay,
okay.
I would say I'm here. I can hear you. I can see you very well. Okay, so I can see that solutions to address the challenges of artificial intelligence must really include again an ethical and human-centered approach. So when we talk about policies, regulations, international collaborations is massively important. Because let's say we have a very good initiative in Europe, which is called the EU AI Act, which really helps to create common regulations to reduce AI's negative impacts. Again, education and digital literacy, I really like and very, having that. Education is key in this moment of our life because to foster responsible use of AI, raising awareness of risks and challenges, and promoting a critical approach to technologies, and then training people how to become creative directors again and use their creative, critical and reflective thinking is massively important. We launched the first masterclasses in the world for kids 8 to 14 years old. And you wouldn't believe what happened. I mean, it's so important that also all teachers really embrace AI, because AI is not going to stop. So you need to know it very well. You need how to use it very well. You need how to train people to use it very well and to put their knowledge inside, their creativity, their artistic mindset. Again, sorry, there is one more: security monitoring. This is very important because AI requires stricter security and adherence to privacy law, we all know GDPR. So continuous monitoring is massively important. Now there's all the legals around the world are having trouble, behind AI. And the last that I can see, talking with brands, every single day, and also with the professional and artists, human oversight and control. So human input is vital. I really wanted to underline this again, to prevent misuse, first of all, and ensure ethical decisions, making education essential for responsible AI management. When really we teach how you can use yourself, your knowledge with GenAI assistants, it's a key concept because they are assistant for you.
Yeah, that is very, very insightful. And I couldn't help but be curious on how you're doing it as Miat. There's someone in our community who has an organization or is a CEO or a manager and would like to know how do they begin with educating their employees, or how do teachers start educating their students, or how did you do that at Miat, and how can we borrow from what you know so far?
So you want to know how we train people, and also in Miata. Well,
Yeah.
what we do when we train people, we as a side, we train people how to become creative directors with GenAI assistants, which means that we teach first of all the creative process behind anything that it's needed. Starting from text, brainstorming, let's say storyboards, creating images, videos, color corrections, humanize photorealistic avatars, trainings, product design, architectural settings, whatever. But what we teach is really we teach how you become a creative director, which means that design your process, and then let's see how you fit in different kind of GenAI system, because this is important. For instance, we don't use always ChatGPT. Personally, I use Claude because for me, for my personality, it's more ethical. I can perceive Claude as a woman. I can perceive ChatGPT as a man. Maybe this makes you laugh, but really, I really perceive it. So I really feel it. And so we use a different kind of, languages to achieve top training and people who are empowered. And even in companies, what we're facing is that C-level thinks that with GenAI, you can do things in a sec. which is not actually true, because you must be really capable to achieve, optimum results with whatever you do, whether if you have to write, or as I said, you create an image or a video, or like a training center, whatever. So we teach also like lots of ethics, IP, and of course rights behind it, because we inject our lawyers, they're very expert. So this is very important that you understand what is behind AI, and what does it mean to work in an ethical way, in a proper way with AI. But more important, where you put into your data, whether again is a text or like a research or an image, what happens to them. Okay, so let's say we are like the training center of Sky, of RAI, of EssilorLuxottica, many giant tech, and we help them really how to create a kind of a tiger task forces who can train other people, but like in the best way, in the more ethical way, what we call the human first approach, actually.
Wow, indeed, it seems like you have a lot of things going on, and it's quite impactful to humanity and communities. Now, in your own personal words or your personal experience, have you seen AI diminishing human relationships that you have with your employees or your family, or do you see it getting you closer and closer to them in your own personal experience?
No, I have to say no. Again, if you use it very well, so like the relationship you have with people, I would say that remain the same. If you are capable to use AI intentionally, okay. So let's say that when you use AI, of course there are like tasks that you can achieve faster. But this again gives you like the time to do like other kind of work or other kind of activities in your life. But again, I think one of the most important things that I see like out there in the market, and as I said, we are very international, is that people do not understand right now what really is AI and what is the advancement of AI and how to use it properly. Because it's quite easy, okay, to write a prompt asking something, but that doesn't mean that you're using AI intentionally. So when you're capable to use AI, let's say for text, using like a perfect prompt structure, your life changes completely. And also the relationship, because again, whether you're in a company or like at home, you have more time to do other things. But the way that you're capable to use AI enhances your knowledge and your capabilities.
Yeah, I do totally agree on that. Well, we only have much time. We could have gone on. We are learning so much from you, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much for the precious time that we've gotten to spend with you, Elisa. And may our gather be well. Over to the next panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to GatherVerse Safety Summit 2024. And what an amazing fireside chat that was with Lynn, who is actually here with us. Hi, Lynn. And also with Elisabetta as well. But on this roundtable, we're going to have a very interesting discussion about protecting my body, thoughts and identity, of understanding AI's influence on personal autonomy. If everyone could please mute their microphones, that would be much appreciated. And then we will get into the fireside discussion. My Wi-Fi is apparently terrible. Okay, interesting. Okay, so yeah, if you could mute your microphone, and so same with you, David. And then we'll jump straight into this conversation. David, if you can mute your microphone as well. David? Amadesu?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. If you can mute your microphone, that'll be good. Can you mute your microphone, please? Okay. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to do a 30-second introduction with each panelist, and then also myself as well. And then we'll get straight into the conversation. But just if you can mute your microphone. For some reason, it's not coming up that you've muted your microphone. So if you could do that, that'd be good. But just can you mute your microphone, please?
So I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulty with Russell. We're going to have him restart his Wi-Fi and hop back in. We want to do introductions, and we're happy to have everybody for this panel. This discussion is very important when it comes to protecting my body, thoughts, and identity, your autonomy, and understanding what that means in this world of artificial intelligence that we find ourselves in. With that said, we're going to do brief introductions to those who've come to assemble with us now. And Lynn, we want to kick this off, and we also want to understand what's the importance of you arriving to this roundtable discussion. Briefly, please. We'll begin with Lynn.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me for this panel. I'm Lynn Getao. I'm here in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm very excited to be here. And I serve as a communications director for GatherVerse. And the reason for me why I am here is I'm concerned about safety, and I want to learn from everyone. And I find these topics very intriguing. I want to be part of them. Thank you.
Absolutely. We're very happy to have you, Lynn, and thank you for sharing that. Devin, we're always happy to have you back with us here, assimilating in the global community with GatherVerse. Please briefly let us know who you are and why you're here at this discussion.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm a little under the weather right now, so
sorry to hear that.
My voice if it starts to be weird. But I am a educator. I teach kids how to build web sites and WebXR experiences. Worked for multiple companies doing the same thing that I'm doing now, but I mainly focus on education in underserved communities, and that is where I'll leave it.
Thank you so much, Devin. We're very happy to have you here, and we certainly hope you feel better. Thank you for, with whatever residual energy you have, to be able to spend a little bit of time with us in this roundtable discussion. And that leads us into David. David, we're very happy to have you here to be able to assemble with you once again. It's good to see you. And please.
Good to see you, Christopher. My name is David Benjamin. I am the founder of the Meta Layer Initiative. I'm the author of the MetaWeb, the next level of the internet. So a lot of my focus these days is how we can create a meta environment above the web page. And the crucial thing about it is that it would actually contain AI potentially. And I also work on Bitcoin ordinals, but that's kind of my fun work. This other work is the serious piece.
What brings you here, David, to this important discussion on safety, in particular, thinking about protecting my body, thoughts, and identity?
What brings me is the absolute lack of conversation about the only real solution in my mind. There's all this talk about regulation, et cetera, but that's not actually going to work because the malicious actors aren't going to follow regulations. So we actually need to be thinking about AI containment. Many of you may never even heard that term because it's not really used that much. I looked on Google and it's basically a flat line. AI safety, there's some conversation about, but containment, controlling and containing, constraining what an AI can do within an environment is where it's at. And the only real environment that makes sense, that would be scalable, would be the space above the web page. So that's what I'm bringing, and that's why I'm here.
Russell, please.
Yes, I don't know what happened there. I seem to have had a internet connection issue somehow, even though apparently I was fine on my side of things. It's like I was in my own little metaverse. So, but anyway, Majitsu, can you hear me okay? Is everything good? Just give us a thumbs up if you can. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Majitsu, over to you. 30-second introduction from yourself, and then we'll move forward from there. So, Majitsu, why are you here today?
All right. First of all, my name is Marjiso Dan and Moses. Thank you, Rosa Bondi, for that. I'm the executive director of Africa Tech for Development Initiative, a body that's focused on ensuring that there is growth and development in areas of research, in areas of sustainable practices and ethical, responsible AI development, particularly in the global South, Africa. And this conversation is one that interests me so well. Well, we cannot talk about AI without knowing the pros and cons of AI. And I always refer to AI as a two-edged sword. And what does that mean? There are merits and demerits in its usage. And if we are to use AI and ensure AI is adopted both in the global south and the global north, we must understand the influence of AI on personal autonomy. And this topic, I found it very crucial. Like the last speaker said, the other speaker said, there is little or no conversation in this area. And this is very, very paramount if we are to call for a holistic adoption of artificial intelligence. So this
Right.
safety summit is very, very important.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mijitsu, and it's good to see you again as well. And Mamadou, welcome. A quick 30-second introduction from yourself of who you are, and Mijitsu, if you can remute your microphone again, that'd be good.
Yeah, okay. Thanks everyone for having me. My name is Mamadou Diallo from Dakar, Senegal, in West Africa. So I'm a French speaker first, so excuse me if my English is not really okay. So I'm the lead developer and the program manager at MetaFreak, where we are in West Africa trying to leverage the XR industry, trying to make it known to people, make people to know what is the interest, what are the pros and cons, like Majutsu said. So mostly on the AR, VR, and AI most of the time. And the reason why
Okay.
I'm here is like everybody else, is to talk mostly about like the safety, how we can safeguard ourselves while using all those technologies, mostly AI in this case.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, AI safety is extremely important. I think it's something that hasn't been spoken about enough, and it should be talked about more, which is it just isn't. But thank you very much for joining us, Mamadou. And in this roundtable, obviously, we're going to be talking about protecting my body, thoughts, and identity, understanding AI's influence on a personal autonomy. So this is going to be a very interesting discussion and panel. I'm sure Christopher has made an excellent introduction already on this topic, but obviously I want to reintroduce it myself. So we'll start with the very first question. Christopher, stop. I will start with the very first question, which is, how do we guarantee AI respects personal autonomy while driving innovation in healthcare and personal devices? I think this is an extremely important subject to be covered and to be spoken about. So I'm going to basically bring you in, Majitsu, on this, because I think you'll have a lot of tech expertise on how this can be used for healthcare and personal devices. And then we'll also go over to David after. So Majitsu, over to you first. Can you hear me, Majitsu?
Yes,
Amazing.
I can. I'm live. Okay, first of all, when we talk about AI usage in health, it cuts across lots of areas. The importance of artificial intelligence in the health sector cannot be overemphasized. It has changed the health narrative and made health more accessible, particularly in remote communities. Nevertheless, there are bound to be challenges in AI usage in the health sector, particularly when we refer to its usage of individualization of health challenges and needs. And then how can we ensure that there is autonomy that is maintained in the health sector? First of all, we must ensure that the recommendations of AI systems, particularly when used in health forums, are not mandatory. The recommendations should not be mandatory. Most they should be suggestive. For instance, an AI system that checkmates the blood pressure of a patient can make recommendation based on the fact that that patient needs to have a physical meeting with a human doctor, and that emphasizes the fact that human autonomy is sustained. Because if we give AI the autonomy of humans to decide when and how humans have access to health treatments, then the human autonomy is gone. So we must sustain human autonomy by ensuring that AI systems are not conclusive. Their decisions are just recommendatory and not final. That's one method we can ensure personal autonomy is sustained in the health sector. In addition, we can also ensure that AI systems only serve a particular purpose. For instance, when we talk about privacy issues, the data of patients should not be kept at the whims and caprice of AI systems alone. There should be an oversight function. Humans should be able to determine whether this data are being shared to third parties as well. That way, we can also protect human autonomy in the health sector. Another way is to ensure that there's a human element in the loophole. We do not give AI 100% access or 100% role to play in the health sector. There should be a human role that intercedes whether this AI have made right decisions or not, and that's called for explainability of decisions before the decisions are taken finally by the humans. So these are the few ways we can ensure human autonomy in the health sector.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, Magician. And I agree with you on a lot of those aspects. I mean, obviously, ChatGPT have allowed a way in which you can be anonymized now. When you join them. So, that's one good thing now is a lot of people are joining ChatGPT now because of that, right? Because you can have the option to anonymize. But David, I'm very curious to kind of hear sort of like the layer that you're speaking about on top of AI. Especially when it comes to like the autonomy side, for innovation in healthcare and personal devices. How could this layer of the meta layer, for example, be used on top of this to maintain autonomy?
Well, I think that's the beauty of creating a new environment. You get the opportunity to set the rules and really determine how all the agents, not just the artificial ones, but also humans, you can determine how they interact. So if you've created this layer in a way that's expansive enough that it provides the sufficient spaces and connectivity among the different issues that you're trying to address, and it's accessible to enough the people, then you have this possibility with strong authentication and uniqueness to know who's in human and who's an AI agent. And if you do that, then if you're able to make that distinction, then you can have rules for both the humans and the AI. And of course, encryption and cryptography would be used to really govern and enforce these rules. But it creates a situation where you actually can guarantee that there are only certain things that the AI can do. And same thing with humans as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to AI agents, that's a whole different ballgame. We're talking about, chain of thought and everything like that, and potentially being able to, even potentially, duplicate themselves and learn themselves from their own data and everything like that, and train itself up, etc. When it comes to that sort of level, it's a complete different level. And when it comes to autonomy, we definitely need to make sure that that is obviously at the forefront. Because obviously, safety is extremely, important concern. So, but yeah, thank you very much for sharing, David. And which leads me on to my next question, which is, how do we guarantee AI respects personal autonomy while driving innovation in healthcare? Well, I've just read that. We're on the next one, aren't we? My bad. All right, next one. What are the key risks of AI infringing on personal privacy and identity, and how can they be mitigated? Very interesting question. Devin, we'll bring you onto this, and then Lynn, I'll be interested to hear what you have to say on this as well. So over to you, Devin.
Thank you, Russell. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Like I said, if you hear me sniffling, I'm a little sick. But one thing I know for certain, as far as with AI and personal privacy, that I'm concerned about most is data breaches, and my personal data being breached by an AI system, and then not only it being breached, but also the misuse of that data, because sensitive personal data can be hacked or misused, and it's hacked and misused by humans, let alone these advanced AI systems. You don't know what they're going to do with it. You don't know where this information may go, how it may be utilized in many different ways, and that scares me. It does. And as far as how that could be mitigated, I would just say implementing strong data security and encryption measures.
I definitely think that's a big factor. Also, I would say as well how the data is used.
Yeah.
Right. You sign up, they use their data. Use your data to learn, etc. Know your personal data, and then all of a sudden it's like, now all of a sudden we know everything about you, Devin. We know where you eat. Where you sleep. We know where you go. That is a big concern as well. So. Obviously, I know there's anonymous techniques which can be used, right, to try and protect people's privacy, etc., like behind the scenes.
Right.
However, it is an important big factor, and I'm going to bring you in on this, Lynn, as well. What are your thoughts on this too? And thank you for sharing them, Devin. I mean.
Yeah, I think for me, I do feel robbed. I think that's one of the risks that I'm keen on. I feel robbed with my autonomy. Let's even go back to narrow AI before even the boom of generative AI. Let's just start with narrow AI when companies, big tech companies like Meta or Facebook or Google, you just think about searching of something and it immediately brings you what you wanted to search for. For example, I wanted to search for what is the tallest building in Africa. And that is what exactly it suggests. And you wonder, is this thing reading my mind? How did it know I wanted to search for the tallest building where I am here in Africa? Or how did it know that this is the kind of dress that I wanted so that it appears on my Instagram feed and I am forced to buy it? Such kind of influence. And how I look at it is, for me, it's being robbed. I do feel robbed every time when I see something that was on my mind or something that I was talking about. And that is what I see on my feed. I do feel really uncomfortable about that. And I'm not the only one. Most of us have had that experience. And to some extent, I've had friends who said, is this thing magic? Why does it just give me what I want, the music that I want? It's
Magic.
because it has studied you, it has known what you like doing, where you do travel, and that is what it gives you. For some advantage, it is good because you go direct straight to the point what you want. But when it becomes a behavior or a habit, it's risky for me. How to mitigate that? I'm still not sure because I feel helpless. Perhaps one of you has the solution and how on from that.
I mean, obviously, there's a lot of ways to sort of mitigate that. I mean, obviously, that comes back to the whole frameworks, right, and how that's done on the back end side. So I definitely think with the right frameworks in place and the right procedures and systems, that can, a lot of issues can be mitigated with that, and that's why I'm putting together a universal verification framework within all this to be able to verify everything across the board and across the world, with no matter what the AI model is and no matter what the AI system is as well. So, which leads me on to my next question, which is, how do you view the growing influence of AI in understanding, human thoughts, behaviors, and identities? And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this panel. So, Mamadou, I'll bring you on this, and then I'm also curious to hear your perspective, David, as well on that, on how you view it. So, Mamadou, over to you.
Oh yeah. Oh, thank you. So I think it's influence. It's at the same time good and bad. It's always like two sides of it. So the first thing is that it can help you on whatever you want to do. Like for example, it depends on how you want to use the AI, what type of information you give it, so that when you have on what you're thinking, whatever you are thinking, you think of something and you want its input on it, so it can give you input. But that can also be dangerous because some people may be dependent on it, be like, oh, I have to do this, so let me just go and ask an AI on how to do it. So that can be a dangerous thing for us because we can't become dependent on it like people who smoke or drink.
Right.
Where the more you use it, the more it can be dangerous for you yes, it helps you a lot on a lot of things, but sometimes also it doesn't help you. So let's say, for example, the other day with the Meta, like the Meta Connect, people were saying like, oh, I can now speak to my what is it, the AR glasses, and I can see everything, and I can just speak to my glasses. That can also reduce some human interactivity on how you interact with other people. So instead of asking people, oh, what is this place, or where can I go from here, you can directly ask the AI. So that can be actually dangerous on it. So that's the take I have on it. So like I said, it's at the same time good because it helps you a lot on multiple things, but it can also like reduce the human interactivity that you have with other people and that type of stuff.
Thank you for sharing, Mamadou. And yeah, I agree with you on a lot of that. You know, the fact they can understand what you're thinking or what your behaviors are and who you are and what you do and who you are as a person and have your own identity, and people saying about the twin versions of themselves and everything like that as well. You know, there's a lot of parts to that. And also, I just want to quickly mention, Rose says, I see many people exploiting the program already. I'm pretty sure that she's referring to the message, that the thing that we was talking about earlier. But David, yeah, over to you. You know, how do you view the growing influence on AI and sort of understanding human thoughts, etc.?
Well, I see it as a tool having, you know, both positive and negatives. On the positive side, I think there's this tremendous potential for us to learn more about ourselves with AI. I just can imagine a future where the information from my Fitbit, if I had one, plus all the information from my activity on the web, plus my activity from my phone, and all that was going into an AI, and that AI is the only one that actually has access to my data, because I'm a, you know, I have data sovereignty, and that AI is, what were you gonna say?
No, I mean, I was just also thinking as well, like as you was just talking there, like about the computer chips, right? And putting computer chips inside your head. Like, obviously, I know that's another level, but obviously, I was just thinking that as you was talking. But please continue what you're saying, and then we'll get to that next, because I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, and so what I'm just imagining, if the type of analytics and information that they're currently using AI to understand us and figure out what we should buy or what we'd be inclined to buy, and you know how it actually influenced in that way. If that same level of understanding of technology was brought to bear to help us better understand ourselves, that could be completely transformative. Because information, I mean, money is one thing, but information is worth way more than money, because you know you use information to make money, and if you have the best information, it's like, just imagine if you had, say, you know, one of your most admired persons as a mentor, and you are into them because they obviously are going down a path that you're interested in going in. They can give you information that's incredibly helpful, that can really make your career completely different than it would have been without that help. And what I'm imagining is that with all the information about me, my personal AI could help me make much, much, much better decisions than I'm making right now. It's kind of like having insider trading, you know, on myself in a way. You know, I have insider information.
Yeah, like advanced analytics of David. You're like, where are we going to be going? This way. That's brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh wow, you know, David, you might want to think about this person that you're talking to now. She seems very much like the last three. Maybe you're in a pattern. You know.
But no, yeah, I agree with you, David, 100%. You know, it is a scary time, and it's a scary thing, and obviously, at the same time, it also helps advance you in so many ways as well. It's just obviously that sort of balance, and you know, it kind of goes back to, how do we do this in an ethical way? You know, how do we make sure that things are unbiased? How do we make sure that the companies are accountable? How do we make sure they're transparent in what they do, etc., etc.? You know, it comes back to all that really at the end of the day. And that's the bottom line. But thank you so much for sharing, David. And I completely agree with you. Analytical David sounds really awesome.
I want him.
I'm sure he'll be spun up soon. So my next question, which is, and by the way, I can see a little bit of chat going on in the group chat quickly. So I'll just quickly mention, they're talking about currently right now that AI was made 50 years ago. That is true. I don't know what they're talking about. They're talking about, and Time is saying about the advancement of technology will lead to regulations. And that's already, I'm pretty sure that's already happening. But anyway, next question, which is how can individuals maintain control over their own data and personal information in an AI-driven world? And I mean, there's no really solid solution for this, but Majitsu will bring you on this, and then Devin will bring you on as well. So Majitsu, what are your thoughts on this? Majitsu, you need to sort of unmute your microphone. Lovely job.
Okay. Yes. How can individuals maintain control over their own data and personal information?
Yeah.
That is very crucial for there to be a regular audit of what data you're sharing. Individuals must understand that the data they share is subject to sharing by third parties or sharing to third parties. So there must be a careful examination of the type of data you share. Just yesterday, I was discussing with some persons, and I said, your email is even shared to third parties without your knowledge. So if individuals know that their personal data can be shared to third parties without their, authorization, it makes them to be careful before they share their personal data. So personal audit and regular audit of personal data shared is very, very important. Also, there should be individuals should learn how to use services that make reliance on privacy. That is, privacy-focused services and tools should be what individuals should, advance towards using, and to ensure that their personal data are protected. Because if you want to control your personal data and personal information, you must know the organization or the medium you're entrusting your personal data to. That's to help solve unauthorized data usage or unauthorized data sharing. Most of these platforms have data policies, and once you read their data policies and you don't agree with them, you should not go ahead to share or give your personal data. So awareness is very, very integral. I think that was early this year where persons were having issues with TikTok, their user policy awareness and all that, and they said they were hiding some kind of facts from these end users. And that brings us to individuals knowing the kind of platforms they also engage with in sharing their personal data. Another issue is the one of we supporting regulations that give users more control over their data. Oftentimes, there are no regulations that protect end users over their data. There should be more enthronement of regulations that give individuals more power to use their data, decide how their data is shared, decide how their data is also stored. And if there are powerful regulations that advance user interest, I think users will have more influence in controlling not just their data, but also their private policies.
Here's the thing. I mean, I had a conversation the other day with a friend of mine, and he was saying about, basically like social media, right? And we've only just got up to speed, right, with social media data and how that works and how to protect that, etc. But then when it comes to AI and AI safety and AI data, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different level. So when it comes when it comes to data in particular, okay, we can put these things in place which users can use, right, to protect their data, etc. But how many people are going to be educational enough to know that they can do that or know that they can protect their data in order to be able to do that? Because most people won't care, right? They won't care at first, but as soon as 5-10 years come down the line, then they will, right? Which is kind of like what happened to social media, right? The first 5 years, people were like, "Way, I can be social, etc." But then now, it's kind of like, "Oh my god, I want to protect my data. Like, you can't see this, and this is private, and blah blah blah." So my question to you, Majitsu, and I just want to fire this back at you, and then Devin will go across to you because we've got to finish things up. Actually, we've got 2 minutes left. So actually, Majitsu, I'm gonna have to quickly stop there. Sorry, I've got to go to Devin on this. So Devin, what are your thoughts on that quickly of what I just said, in terms of sort of like the social media side and kind of where we're up to? And Mamadou, I'm sorry I can't get around to you, but we've literally got 2 minutes. So I appreciate you being here and thank you very much for joining us. But Devin, I just want to fire this last question to you. Oh, apparently we have 10 minutes, so never mind. There's me finishing up 2 minutes time. And then I just been told we've got 10 minutes. So Devin, so we'll go back again. Majitsu, what are your thoughts on what I said, about the social media thing and stuff? And then Devin, we'll go to you after. So what are your thoughts on what I just said about social media and the data and then AI and then the data and stuff now?
Okay, I believe that there should be an overview of how AI education on use of this AI systems is being spread. And that brings the place of civil society organizations. The place of advocacy cannot be overflowed when we talk about individuals understanding the demerits of the AI systems they use. And for them to understand that, there must be a grassroots mobilization, education of the merits and demerits of the AI systems, particularly with respect to their data, particularly in respect to their privacy issues. And like you said, most persons are not aware, but there needs to be a medium to create that awareness. We can create awareness in schools, in colleges, we can create awareness in universities, we can create awareness in marketplaces, we can create awareness everywhere for people to understand that their data really matters and their privacy is top-notch when AI system is concerned. So there is a place for civil society organizations to advance advocacy in remote areas of the society, in everywhere, so that people have this first-hand awareness on how to share their data, how to use their data, and also how to protect their data.
I agree with you, Majitsu. I really do. And I just hope that that does happen and that is true and that everyone can become educational on it. And Rose is just saying, when the regulations are not understanding AI, how can they be regulated? That is a good question. Very, very good question. But obviously, that's not the question we're going to be asking for this panel. So my question to you, Devin, which is, what should be the limits of AI in influencing or even controlling decisions about our bodies and health? So very interesting question. It might be a bit of a complicated one, but I'll fire this one to you, Devin.
No problem. I think it just also goes back to what you two were just talking about. It just goes back to doubling down on data awareness, being aware of how the data is used, and then also engaging in AI literacy, more education about what AI is doing, what it's doing with your data, and how to prevent certain things from being accessed and used in certain ways. And then also, I think it also can be attributed to exercising consent, being actively managing permissions. Because a lot of the times we just go through social media, we just go through these apps, these applications, just willy-nilly just accepting everything without reading what we're actually, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But without reading what we're accepting. And a lot of times we're just throwing our data. We're like, here. And then once it gets used, or it's used for shopping, it's used to target us for marketing, we want to get upset and be like, oh, how'd you know that? Well, because you agreed to it. So I'll just say advocating for, number one, stronger regulations as far as policy, and then also exercising consent and just doubling down on data awareness and AI literacy.
I agree. I think it's multifaceted. I really think it's multifaceted. I think, again, it comes back to the verification framework, which I said about, that's kind of like the start of it all, right? Or the starting point of it all. But again, it also comes to the user's end too, right? And how we've been saying on multiple panels already, which is, if I'm an end user and I'm using that, I should know how to use it or how to not use it or what to do or etc. So I think there's kind of multiple layers to us, and I think if we have the right sort of frameworks in place, which people actually use, and also the right sort of regulations and policies, and actually follow everything that we need to from a safety standpoint, which is bias and ethically and accountability and transparency, etc. Then I think AI would be a better place. But we're just going to make sure that companies do that, and then also the end users are educated enough as well to do that as well, and be able to use it. will people want to be educated? Maybe not, right? But will, you know, in the AI age, as we called it, are people going to have to learn and adapt? Absolutely. So at some point they're going to have to learn it. So,
like it's like a pilot who is going to fly a plane. There's no way he's going to be able to get that plane off the ground, or they won't even let him or let them get off the ground or get in the plane until they know everything they need to know about that machine.
That's true. That's
you
true.
know, it's the same thing how we have to operate as users with AI, because it will take advantage. It will definitely be to our detriment if we don't understand everything about it.
I agree, Devin. Thank you so much for sharing and being here as well. Mamadou, I'm going to bring this question to you, which is how do we guarantee AI does not, you know, perpetrate, you know, biases that could negatively impact individual autonomy and identity?
Oh, so that's a hard question because the AI depends on the information that was fed to it actually, and so the information that's fed to it is usually biased by the person or the people that are inputting that information. So I think the most important thing is that the information that is inputted, like that the AI is trained on, it must be like representative of different type of populations, so that it can guarantee a certain level of non-bias, sort of thing. So I think that's the most important thing, because the AI always, the bias or not bias of the AI will depend on the data on which it was trained on.
Right. No, I mean, I think that's perfectly pointed out. But at the same time, you know, I think if there is a way in which everyone can follow the same sort of thing, that there won't be any sort of bias, right? I mean, for example, if companies keep individually doing their own sort of, you know, internal sort of like frameworks, you know, so that they can test their models with, etc., then there's always going to be some sort of bias towards that.
Yes, and I think the best thing to do on that level is to have some sort of auditing of the data that the AI is being trained on. So some external entities or companies may do some auditing of the data on which the AI is being trained on, to make sure that the information that is in there is not biased or doesn't negatively impact some population or certain category of people.
Yeah, that's why I think verification will come in. That would be so important in that bit, and having an independent party that can do that, you know, some sort of collaborative place.
And mostly some sort of somebody said it actually in the YouTube chat, some sort of diversity and inclusivity of the data on which the AI is going to be trained on.
We've literally, actually, we are genuinely running out of time this time. So thank you very much, Mamadou. Welcome back, David, as well. Rose, she's saying, assuming that everyone is involved in the technology case, I agree, Devin. Yes, Mamadou, that's why diversity is a must. So thank you very much for sharing your thoughts, Rose. Now, on to pretty much the last question now, because we've got 3 minutes. So, well, actually, we really don't have much time. We'll fire this one to you, David. You've got to be very quick on this, though, like literally 30 seconds, maybe a minute max. And then we'll have to jump out, which is, how do emerging technologies like AI challenge the concept of personal identity, and what safeguards are needed? So you're going to have to just do a quick synopsis on this one.
Well, identity is going out the window, because AIs can multiplicate, you know, millions of different instances of themselves. They can copy people. It's pretty crazy what can happen with respect to that. What safeguards are needed? We need a safe environment. We need to create an environment where everything that goes on with respect to the AI's actions and interactions is governed by an actual blockchain ledger, potentially. But essentially, we need to constrain the AI, and you can't do that with regulations, really. I mean, it's kind of the start, but not the end.
Not the pace AI is going at. But thank you so much, David, for sharing your thoughts. Thank you to all the panelists here for today. Mamadou, Majitsu, Davin, Thank you so much, guys, for joining. That is it from GatherVerse Safety Summit 2024 on October the 2nd. Thank you, everyone, for joining us from the GatherVerse.live, all the different social media streams and social media platforms. Thank you, Rose, for joining us as well. You commented so much, so thank you for commenting loads, and everyone else for being part of this amazing community and for this amazing summit. And that is pretty much from me. Lewis is going to be up next because he's got a special talk for everyone here to watch. And yeah, so apparently it's not the end. I've just been told. So I'm sorry, Christopher. But yeah, Lewis is up next, but it's over from our panel at least anyway. So thank you very much for joining me and have a great day.
Hi, everyone. This is Luis Bravo Martins from XRSI Europe. Thank you very much for having me today here at the GatherVerse. A lot has been happening in XR and virtual worlds here in Europe, and I thought we should talk a bit about that. So I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to jump right into it and start by defining what virtual worlds means here in Europe. So this is the expression used by the European Commission to designate the next stage of the internet, aka the metaverse. Yes. So this stage where emerging tech will seamlessly connect digital and physical spaces, objects, people, and avatars. So the size, the estimated global size of this market is shapes up to become something around 800 billion euros, according to the European Commission, by 2030. But already by 2025, it's supposed to reach or to shed a number of 800, I think it's 860,000 jobs, right? New jobs. And that's why virtual worlds are set to transform the business and the employment market. And for this reason, the European Commission already created its own strategy for the virtual worlds to steer this technological transition. But at the same time, it has been publishing several of the building blocks that will make this vision come to life. And I thought about sharing some of them with you today. So the first one relates to skills. So the Digital Euro program has been around for quite some time. And from this initial overall budget, the sum of 580 million is planned to be invested in virtual world building skills. So the call for the Advanced Digital Skills Program is open until November 21st, and all universities in Europe can apply. Also, another call that is open until end of November is aims to create local digital twins, which are the virtual real-time representations of a city's physical assets, equipment. So overall, we're talking about the infrastructure. The call for applications on this area is also open, as I said, and you are more than welcome to reach out to me regarding this if you have any doubt. And finally, the European Digital Identity Wallet was already approved in the European Parliament, and it now enables, or it will enable, when approved by all the national parliaments, it will enable the European citizens to port and to take their own digital identities to each and every virtual world. So, which will allow for a level of interoperability that is unpaired until now. Now, the issue is, if you look closely, each one of these services enables exponentially more data to be exchanged between physical and digital services. Although this is crucial for this vision of virtual worlds, aka the metaverse, to come to life, it's also very important to understand that this also means that our relationship with data changes, because a lot more data will flow in an incredibly quick way between the physical and digital elements, and we will be in the middle, right? And now, if you come to think about the usage of data that we do every time, a lot has happened, right? We now unlock in like, I don't know, maybe a couple of years, we started unlocking our smartphones with our faces and using biometry to log into online services. AI appeared, and we are comfortable with it being educated with online data, sometimes some of it our own. And at the same time, we are implementing AI agents in our own households. So both at an individual scale, at a collective social scale, at also a civilizational level, there's a lot to adapt. But we do need to choose if we really want to adapt or if we want to steer this change. And for steering this change, what do we need? We need awareness. We need access to trustworthy information. We need digital skills, of course, and we need to know how to handle this and how to generate the user acceptance and how to foster adoption, and overall how to build up trust in these new technologies in a safer manner. That's why it makes so much sense for all of us to work together in building this safe but amazing new stage of the internet. So again, if you or your organization would like to promote awareness events on these topics, if you would like to upskill your team or enhance your policies or enhance your practices in cybersecurity in virtual worlds or with emerging technologies, or if you'd like to simply jointly research specific opportunities or challenges in this fast-moving field, please do reach out. XRSI Europe stands for XR Safety Intelligence Europe, and we are really looking forward to connect with all of the builders in the European space so we can, again, create virtual worlds together the best way possible. Again, thank you very much for having me today, and may your gather be well, and looking forward to continue the discussion afterwards on the social media and also on our website. Cheers.
Hello everyone, I'm Sandeep Ashokan and I'm a data scientist. Today, I'm here to speak about an increasingly important topic, ethics in artificial intelligence, titled Responsible Intelligence, AI Ethics for the Future. The ethical challenges posed by the AI are among the most critical topics of our time. In this talk, we will explore real-world case studies to ground these ethical concerns in practical examples. To begin with, the story of Glenn Ray highlights bias and fairness issues in AI and justice. Despite a model rehabilitation record, his parole was denied after 25 years due to an AI system called Compass labeling him high risk without explanation. This score, likely influenced by racial bias from prison guards, was accepted by the parole board without insight into the algorithm. AI tools like Compass can perpetuate biases, disproportionately affecting minority communities and worsening inequalities. However, AI also holds the potential to expose these biases, offering transparency and accountability. By examining AI systems carefully, we can correct injustice and promote fairness in the law enforcement. Now, let's discuss the transparency concerns surrounding Google DeepMind's NHS data deal. In 2016, Google DeepMind gained access to the health records of over 1.6 million UK patients through a partnership with the NHS intended to use AI to improve healthcare. Many patients were unaware that their data was being used, raising fairness questions since they had no say. Another concern was the lack of transparency in how AI models process the data, leading to potential bias and unfair outcomes in the patient care. This controversy underscores the need for AI to be transparent and accountable, especially when handling sensitive health data. Ethical AI in healthcare requires innovation alongside respect for privacy, fairness, and clarity on how these systems impact lives. Now, to understand the manipulation issues in AI, we should know Cambridge Analytica scandal. The Cambridge Analytica, a water profiling company, harvested data from Facebook, collecting 50 million user profiles without users' explicit consent during 2016 US presidential elections. This data allowed highly targeted political messages, raising concerns over privacy violations and surveillance. This manipulation taps into subconscious processes, subtly shaping opinions in ways that are difficult to detect. Now, that being said, human oversight is critical in AI systems, as highlighted by a 2018 fatal incident involving an Uber self-driving car. A pedestrian was killed, and the distracted test driver was charged with negligent homicide. Authorities identified issues like Uber's weak safety protocols and the car's failure to recognize pedestrians. System vulnerabilities, driver distractions, and shared responsibilities between humans will add further incidents too. Stronger oversight, improved safety measures, and clear accountability are needed for safer roads. The idea of AI for good can support United Nations Agenda 2030's 17 Sustainable Development Goals, that is SDGs, like reducing poverty. AI can enhance agricultural efficiency, contributing to SDG 1, zero hunger. However, challenges such as high energy use and job losses in some regions raise concerns about fairness and inequality. By investing in education and partnership in backward areas, AI solutions can be tailored to local needs, ensuring inclusivity and alignment with Agenda 2030. And hence, let me conclude here. Let's connect, discuss, and learn more. Thanks for joining me today.
Good morning, afternoon, or evening. I am Richard Bukuski, strategic forecaster, futurist, and I'm here to report on some identified trends and share my future forecast on the drivers of technologies that are and continue to shape the art of digital identity. There are three: XAI, IoE, and biometrics. Now imagine a world where artificial intelligence just isn't smart, but explainable. It's an AI that can show its work, making decisions that we can better understand, and by doing that, XAI also begins to build the trust factors. From approving various non-biased application processes to diagnosis of medical conditions, but now with the understandable or possible groundbreaking recommendations for future actions. That's XAI. Now, the Internet of Everything is Internet of Things on steroids, connecting people, devices, data, and processes into a unified network. Imagine a city where the traffic lights, cars, smartphones communicate to optimize traffic flow, reducing congestion and carbon emissions. That's IoE in action, creating smarter, more efficient systems by linking everything together. Now, finally, biometrics, the unique biological markers that make you, you. From unlocking your smartphone with your face to DNA sequencing, that's revolutionizing global health initiatives. It's personalizing our interactions with technologies like never before. I forecast that, together, this triad of forces, XAI, IoE, and the biometrics, will converge to create a future that is more intelligent, more connected, and more personalized than we have ever imagined. In this video segment, we'll explore how this triad can revolutionize industries, reshape our daily lives, and open up incredible opportunities for those who are ready to embrace the future. Simply put, passwords just lack the high level of security necessary to combat the ever-advancing technologies accessible to hackers and bad actors. According to a 2023 study, the most commonly used passwords include 1234, 1234567 QWERTY, password, and 11111. Now, these passwords are not only easy to remember, but also easy to hack, leaving your personal data exposed to cybercriminals. Biometric technology is revolutionizing the ways we're approaching security and personal identification. By utilizing unique physical characteristics, biometric systems offer a more personalized and secure alternative to these traditional passwords. This is called multimodal biometrics. Now, the biometric industry market itself is experiencing rapid growth, currently valued at $47.2 billion, and is projected to reach $84.5 billion by 2029, underscoring its increasing adaptation and importance of biometric technologies in the identity management sectors. Now, here's an example of a biomarker that you may not be familiar with. It's called gait analysis. It's indeed fascinating metric, capturing the unique way that each person walks to identify them. It's a brilliant example of how everyday actions like walking can be transformed into security keys for our digital lives. Alongside behavioral biometrics like keystrokes, dynamic and touch-based gestures are also making a more
Hi everyone, my name is Vamshidhar Vemula and I'm really excited to be speaking with you here at the GatherVerse Safety Summit about a topic that's shaping the future of digital businesses and cybersecurity, which is AI-driven cloud security. So alongside my work in this field, I'm also building a Cloud6 AI, a growing startup that focuses on providing AI-driven solutions to help businesses stay secure and future-ready in this increasingly digital world. In the next few minutes, I'll be diving into how artificial intelligence and cloud security are working hand in hand to protect businesses and consumers alike, and why that's so crucial for the digital future we're all building together. So let's start with the big picture. Today, nearly every business, from small startups to massive global enterprises, is leveraging cloud technology. We store data, manage operations, and even run entire applications in the cloud. While this brings incredible scalability and flexibility, it also brings a massive challenge, which is handling with the security, cybersecurity. So we have all seen in these headlines about data breaches, cyber attacks, and ransomware targeting major corporations, governments, and even our personal data. In the last few years alone, businesses across the globe lost billions of dollars due to cybercrime. The sheer volume and complexity of these attacks make traditional security measures less effective. So how do we deal with this increasingly complex threats? This is where artificial intelligence comes in. AI is a game changer because it can do what traditional security tools can't. AI-driven security systems are designed to learn, adapt, and evolve. So imagine a system that doesn't just react when a threat occurs, but actually predicts potential security breaches by analyzing massive amounts of data in real time. AI systems can detect patterns that human eyes miss, patterns that indicate something isn't right. For example, AI systems can notice unusual login times, irregular data transfers, or strange access patterns, which could be an early signs of an attack. It's like having a 24/7 digital security guard that's always learning and improving, right? So let's talk about what it actually means for businesses. AI-driven security doesn't just protect the infrastructure, it safeguards the data. In today's world, data is everything. We know that, right? We're talking about customer information, business intelligence, even our personal privacy. So a real-world example is AI-powered threat detection systems used by major companies like Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud. These systems analyze billions of actions daily, identifying and responding to potential threats before they impact their operations. But it's not just with the big players benefiting from this. Even the smaller businesses can use AI-driven tools to protect their cloud infrastructure. This isn't just about preventing data breaches. It's about building trust with your customers. So when customer knows the data is secure, they're more likely to engage with your brand, and the trust is invaluable. There's also a cost-saving factor here. By detecting the threats early, businesses can avoid massive financial repercussions, like legal fees and even fines, even lost business due to damaged reputations. So looking ahead, AI-driven cloud security is only going to get smarter and smarter. We're already seeing developments where AI systems not only detect and prevent threats, but also automating responses. So there was an AI system that not only alerts you to a threat, but automatically isolates it, prevents further damage, and fixes the vulnerability, all without human intervention. Cool, right? And with the technologies like machine learning improving day by day, we will see predictive models that can help businesses stay ahead of cyber criminals. It's not about reacting anymore, it's about being proactive. As we move deeper into this digital age, it's clear that AI-driven cloud security is going to be the backbone of how we keep the things safe. It's not just about reacting when things go wrong anymore, it's about being ahead of the game. So we are not only protecting the data, but also building the trust and relationships. This is huge for any businesses. So whether you are a tech leader, a business owner, or someone just curious about the future, think about how you are handling security in your own world. Are you using the right tools? Are you taking advantage of AI and cloud tech to keep your businesses secure and future ready? Because at the end, trust is the key. That's what we need to keep our business moving. I'm very much excited to see all the latest developments in this space, and I hope you are too. Thanks again for listening. I'm Vamshidhar Reddy Vemula, and I am excited to see how we all are working together to build a safer, more secure digital future.
What's up, GatherVerse Safety Summit? My name is Joshua T. Berglund, and welcome to Empowering the Underserved Through Secure Ethical Media. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed guests, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today about something very close to my heart, the transformative power of media in the fourth industrial revolution. As we stand on the brink of an era where technology and media intertwine more deeply than ever before, the stakes couldn't be higher. The question is no longer whether media will shape our future, but who will control that narrative, and how we can ensure that everyone has the chance to participate in this revolution safely, securely, and ethically. My journey through media has been anything but conventional. I've seen how large corporations and centralized platforms monopolize access, knowledge, and monetization. These entities have immense power to shape public perception, but they also inadvertently exclude those who lack resources, technical expertise, and the knowledge of how to enter this rapidly evolving space. That's why I wrote Media Company in a Box. I believe the future belongs to everyone, not just those with deep pockets or high-tech knowledge. In the fourth industrial revolution, media is no longer reserved for big networks and influencers. We now have the tools to democratize media creation. We have the opportunity to turn everyone into a storyteller, an advocate, an entrepreneur, regardless of your background. Media Company in a Box is my way of leveling the playing field. In this digital era, we're witnessing AI, XR, and digital ecosystems creating vast new possibilities, but they also pose risk. For many, these advancements have become barriers rather than gateways. Without access to secure self-hosted platforms, underserved communities remain at risk of being marginalized or manipulated, their voices silenced in a sea of misinformation. But it doesn't have to be that way. Media Company in a Box empowers individuals to build their own media platforms from the ground up, giving them control over their stories, their content, and their intellectual property. What excites me most is that this model prioritizes security and ethical media creation. It teaches creators how to protect their data, control their digital spaces, and shield themselves from the manipulations that so often plague mainstream media. I often say that the future of media is about ownership, not just creating content, but owning the platform on which it's distributed. Imagine a world where every community, regardless of resources, can amplify its voice through secure, self-hosted media channels. Imagine being able to monetize that content while maintaining full control of your intellectual property, free from the constraints of big tech. This is not just about media, it's about empowerment. It's about giving marginalized voices a platform to rise, to be heard, and to advocate for their own communities. It's about ensuring that as we advance technologically, we don't leave anyone behind. That is the vision at the core of Media Company in a Box. I know the challenges ahead are immense. Cybersecurity, misinformation, and data privacy are major concerns for all of us. But these challenges are opportunities to shape a more ethical, inclusive, and secure digital future. In closing, I want to stress one thing. We have an obligation, not just as media creators, but as leaders and visionaries, to ensure that the fourth industrial revolution lifts everyone, not just the select few. Media Company in a Box is my contribution to that vision. It's a tool for empowerment, a guide for the unprepared, and a bridge to a safer, more equitable media landscape. Together, we can create a world where technology serves all of us, where every voice matters, and where secure, ethical media becomes the foundation of global progress. Thank you. You can download a free copy of Media Company in a Box by scanning here or just go to joshuatberglund.com. Thank you so much. Talk to you all.
And we've arrived to the very end of our 25th Global GatherVerse Summit event. 25 summits in. We've talked about women leadership. We've discussed humanity first. We've discussed education. We've covered immersive intelligence. We've covered ethics. We've covered music and fashion and art and technology and open source and artificial intelligence, XR, extended reality, the metaverse. And we've barely begun. We launched the Safety Summit because we saw the opportunity. We saw the opportunity to go into the direction that the majority of the world is not going in. We enjoy these models, these artificial intelligent models. We enjoy using them, deploying them, and building them. I know I have. But what I enjoy more is people keeping safe by the innovations that we build and that we deliver to the world. What I enjoy most is that this technology can help somebody else in their lives that are going through real difficult times, because in this world, people are going through damn difficult times. It's hard. Right now, there's a whole entire workforce filled with unemployed people. We had a You're Fired summit. We have these events for a reason. This isn't the feel-good event of the year. I get it. We're appreciative that everybody still comes to GatherVerse.live, and then those that come on YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and elsewhere. We're really grateful. This was never meant to be the feel-good event of the year. It was meant to be able to bring people together, to be able to express at the intersection of emerging technologies and humanity, to preserve that little bit that we do have left that technology hasn't taken over. Have you ever considered how important it is for us to have these discussions in peer-to-peer expression, one to another? That through the ages of time, we've been given the human code, and that human code, through procreation, has been passed down. The DNA, our culture, who we are in business, what we do, where we go, who we interact with, community. With everything that we believe that we understand about artificial intelligence, I'm convinced, based on everything that I have the pleasure of studying and learning in this space, as I am a student. I am not an expert or a master of AI. I could talk about it for a good long time, but I prefer to be looked on as a student as opposed to someone that's become the penultimate master because I want to earn a paycheck or some income. Sure, I do that now, but the reality is we have more to learn than to teach. And how can we teach and how can we distribute and deploy in our right minds, in our own conscience, knowing that these machines have so much devastating potential? Maybe that makes me look like the outcast, the bad guy, because I'm caring about others more than the needs sometimes of myself. But I know that I'm not alone. It's time for us to continue to reveal, to make transparent, to hold accountable these companies and these platforms that would have us use their technology, whether we're paying for them with money or paying for them with our own autonomy, our data. We're sacrificing something to be able to use what we use. None of it really is for free. And I tell you right now, it was free for you to come to this GatherVerse event, but it wasn't free. You didn't have to pay any money, a euro, a rupee, a pound, a dollar, but you gave us time. And that's the one thing you just don't get back. So we're thankful for these 25 global summits that you've allowed us to be able to assemble all of you together so that we can come and ride together and have discussions and parlay for a brief moment while everything is moving so fast. I don't want to forsake the opportunity for us to be able to assemble together, to be able to express onto these things with one another. I hope that GatherVerse has brought great value or some value in your life, that it's helped you become even more curious, to question, to inspire, to do better. That's it. That's the intent. There's no catch. We have no surprises for you. Your data is safe with us. We take that serious. And thank you for taking this platform serious. It's 25 summits and we have so much more to go. We worked so hard for this. We're only getting by grace. So thank you. And I hope that something was said to you that residually that will benefit and ultimately lead towards something sustainable for you with greater impact in human betterment. I hope all of this makes sense because sometimes I don't know if it does or not. But in my heart, it feels right. So with that said, an emotional, heartfelt thank you to all of our speakers today that came to express and share. I hope that you'll give them a follow. I hope that you'll spend some time with them. And for our next event we have over 190 speakers that are speaking at our Virtual World Symposium at the end of this month. We're going to do the exploration of virtual worlds and understanding what that reality looks like, spatial intelligence, the metaverse, immersive intelligence, XR. But we're also moving towards a food summit. We're working on a plethora of other different events and summits that are coming up. Our SHE Summit, our superhero engine. We're already over 100 speakers to attend that. Our GatherVerse 2025, our Youth Summit, our AI Summit, and more. We thank you. We thank you, and we hope that we've earned your trust. We have some incredible inventions that we're making to be able to make this platform even better than what it is now. So we hope that you'll stick around for that. We'll hope that you'll tell somebody about this. We don't do paid advertising and paid marketing. We don't have it. We just don't financially enjoy it. We give the pennies in our pockets and we hope that it's enough. But we do it with excellence, with a servant's heart. And on this occasion, for Safety Summit, which matters so much in this world, today, I can truly say that our gather was well. Take care. Be well. Thank you.
Well, there is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy, and God I know